Welcome. I'd like to welcome everybody to our regularly scheduled meeting held April 21st, 2015, 9 o'clock, and the meeting will come to order. At this time, I'd like to call on Pastor Chris Brennan from Grace Baptist Church to give the invocation, and that will be followed by the pledge given by myself, Wesley Davis. Please rise.
Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to come before you. We thank you for your continued hand of blessing and grace upon us. We confess our unworthiness, but we exalt your grace and your goodness to us. And we thank you for the glorious gift of salvation through Jesus Christ our Lord. We come to you this morning asking your blessing upon this meeting. I pray that you would guide this group of men and give them wisdom to deal with the matters that are before them, to help them to make the right choices and decisions. I pray for their protection. I pray for protection against criticism or for those who would seek to do hurt against them, Lord. We ask, Lord, your hand to be upon them and continued help for them. Help them, I pray, in all these discussions and the debates and the decisions that all will honor you. I pray for those in leadership in our county, in our state, and in our country. We pray that you would bless our nation, Father, and help us in this day. We pray for our military and for those who are serving abroad. We pray again for your protection and your watch care over them as well. And Lord, we just ask your blessing upon our nation once again, and we'll give you the praise and the glory, for we ask all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And Pastor Drennan, thank you again for coming down and giving us those words of inspiration. Now that moves us to the adoption of the agenda. I see that we have an emergency item 13B, Attorney's Matters, approval for expert witness fees for the Abazi eminent domain case. Is there any other modifications to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Herb Whittle would like to speak on the proposed ordinance coming before us on the vacation rental parking, but he will be out of town on May 5th, so he has asked if he could speak to us today, and I'd like to add him under 10B2.
Let me get to it so I can write that down. If not, y'all have to remind me when I go past it. 10B2. Herb Whittle. Any other modifications, Commissioners? I'll entertain a motion for the orders of the day.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Fletcher with a second from Commissioner O'Brien. If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. That moves us to the proclamations and presentations portion of the agenda. And we have a proclamation of a presentation of retirement award honoring Rocky L. Renda on his retirement from Indian River County Board of County Commissioners, Department of Utilities Water Distribution Division, with 32 years of service. And I have the honor to read this. Rocky, come on up with the crew. Rocky, this is a proclamation.
Right at the podium.
This is a proclamation honoring Rocky L. Renda on his retirement from Indian River County Board of County Commissioners, Department of Utilities and Water Distribution Division. Whereas Rocky L. Renda retired from Indian River County Water Distribution Division effective April 24, 2015. And whereas Rocky Renda began his career with Indian River County as Utilities Maintenance Supervisor on February 5, 1983. And due to his outstanding work ethic and professionalism, he received numerous accolades from internal and external stakeholders. Mr. Renda provided a level of customer satisfaction and response that was unparalleled. He worked tirelessly to maintain the county's high utilities standards, and he continued to do so until his retirement. And whereas Rocky L. Renda has served this county and the public with distinction and selflessness, during his 32 years of service, he was dedicated, and his work was greatly appreciated by the employer, the citizens, and co-workers alike. And now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the Board applauds Rocky L. Renda's efforts on behalf of the county and the board wishes to express their appreciation for the dedicated service he has given Indian River County for the last 32 years. And be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners and staff extend their heartfelt wishes for success in his future endeavors. Adopted this 21st day of April 2015, signed by me, Wesley Davis, Chairman. Got one more, though. This is to certify that Rocky Renda is hereby presented this retirement award for outstanding performance and faithful service to Indian River County Board of County Commissioners for 32 years of service on this 24th day of April 2015, signed by Vincent Burke, Director of Utility Service, and myself as Chairman. Rocky, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'd love to hear a few words.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
It's been really nice working here and all the people I worked with. So.
You going to go fishing or something? Golfing?
Pardon?
Are you going to go fishing or golfing?
Probably neither one. Probably do a little visiting, a little traveling or something like that, you know.
Well, enjoy your retirement. You've certainly have earned it, and I know there's some other commissioners here.
I've got a few words. You know, Rocky, if there was a customer we couldn't make happy, we would send Rocky. And I was looking at, Rocky, and you look at the work orders. I used to look at the work orders, 3:45 a.m., 4:30 a.m., not paid. He'd be out there just working.
Wow.
And, you know, he's just an amazing person, and he would work to make anyone happy. He's one of the employees that you look at and he's amazing.
That's great.
That's what I'm going to work on, stay in bed a little longer.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, whenever I dealt with the utilities and with Lisa Patton, customer service, and she would say, well, I'll have Rocky look into this. I knew it was a done deal. I knew it would be resolved, and just you could walk away. If Rocky was going to handle it, the issue would be resolved and taken care of, and it was nice to be able to have somebody that you could just rely on knowing the job would be done right and the customer would be served, and it was just, yeah, if it got the Rocky approval, it was a done deal. So thank you very much for your service, Rocky.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Pleasure.
Rocky, you know, there are some times where a commissioner has to go down to the utilities department and have a discussion. And, you know, it was always met at the end of the road with you. And we don't see you that much, but a lot of citizens saw you. And you did get an overwhelming amount of compliments, even though you were doing a popular or unpopular job depending upon where they were in the billing cycle. Mm-hmm. But in speaking with Cindy and Lisa and Vinny, when we had those critical issues, we knew it was done because Rocky was on the other end, more or less the same line. I think you're going to hear that across the board, and I think when you go food shopping or in the stores, they're going to say thank you, even the ones that had to be reactivated. But thank you for doing what you did for so long and so professionally that, and again, what you were doing would probably have generated some negative comments, and it truly didn't. And that is a gift, my friend. You did it. So thank you.
Yeah,
enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Here. Come on up and get your plaque.
Thank you.
Come right up here. Stand right here.
I'm going to call your phone at 2 in the morning just to see.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
He'll answer. Believe me. He'll answer.
Rocky, thanks for
Turn around. Let's get it. Tighten up, everybody.
You can get that tight.
Good job, buddy.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Have fun.
Enjoy the next one. See you later, Joe. Well, good luck to you.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
See ya. Yes, sir.
Take care, Rocky.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Going to be a tough man to replace, Vinny.
Our next presentation is a proclamation designating the month of May 2015 as Mental Health Awareness Month, and this will be presented by Commissioner Flesher. It will be given to Art Chaka of New Horizons. Art, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity of presenting this proclamation. Many proclamations generate public awareness. That's most of the intent, and also to recognize the doers of good deeds. In this case, I hope that this message gets out to at least one who needs it, if not all who need it, because we know that we have great teams out there and individuals like yourself and organizations that are truly there to help the folks who need it the most. Just they need that message to say, I need to seek the help. This proclamation is designating the month of May 2015 as Mental Health Awareness Month, whereas mental health is part of overall health, and whereas mental health helps sustain an individual's thought processes, relationships, productivity, and ability to adapt to change or face adversity. And whereas mental illness adversely affects those abilities and often is life-threatening in nature. And whereas 1 in 4 adults experiences mental health problems in any one given year, and such problems can contribute to onset of mental illness. Whereas 11.4 youth to age 24 commit suicide every day in the United States, and Florida has a 15.9% annual statewide suicide rate. Whereas 1 in 17 adults and mental illness such as major depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. And whereas approximately 1/2 of chronic mental illness begins at the age of 14 and 3/4 by the age 24. And whereas long delays, sometimes decades, often occur in between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help. Whereas early identification and treatment can make a profound difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery. Whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental illness in order to get the help when it is needed. And whereas every citizen in the community can make a difference by helping in the silence to end the silence on the stigma that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. Whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and help in to improve the lives of the individuals and families affected by mental illness. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the month of May 2015 be designated as Mental Health Awareness Month in Indian River County, Florida, and to increase public understanding and the importance of mental health and to promote the identification and treatment of mental illnesses. Duly adopted this 21st day of April 2015, signed by all 5 county commissioners. Art.
Thank you, County Commissioners, County Attorney, County Administrator. A couple of minor corrections, if I could. My organization is Suncoast Mental Health Center. I believe New Horizons is here and will be speaking about 2 proclamations down. But this is my organization, Suncoast Mental Health Center. My name is Art Chaska, and I am the CEO at Suncoast Mental Health Center. With me today is our board president, Ms. Gabrielle Radcliffe, attorney at law, and also board members and treasurer, Mr. Frank Jensick and Ms. Ann Zigelter. So we appreciate your support. Just very briefly, Suncoast Mental Health Center is a 4-county 501c3 organization. And we are located here in Vero Beach on Old Dixie Highway, just south of 16th Street. We're truly a community-based organization in that our mental health therapists and case managers are actually in the homes of our clients and our families and in the schools every day. And we also have office visits with our psychiatric staff too. A couple of things about Suncoast Mental Health Center and mental health, if I could. We truly understand the importance of prevention, early detection and identification, and treatment for mental health disorders. Commissioner Flesher, you shared some excellent statistics, and I appreciate that. Just a couple more I'd like to add into the mix just for the people hearing this. If you look at children age 8 to 18, 1 in 5 of them have a mental health disorder severe enough to cause a significant impairment in their day-to-day lives, which obviously includes their learning environment, their school. Okay? Those children with a mental health disorder that's untreated or undertreated, they are failing more classes, they are earning lower grade point averages, they are missing more days of school, and they are retained at grade level more than any other group with a disability. Okay? If we look at children age 14 and up who have mental illnesses, about 50% of those children are dropping out of high school. And to add to that mix, 75% of those children will be arrested within 5 years after dropping out of high school. I applaud the county for backing Sheriff Lohr, Judge Cox, and the Mental Health Collaborative for your support and efforts in establishing a mental health court here in Indian River County. Truly appreciated and needed. The last staggering statistic I'll share with you is you look at youth under the age of 24, 11 of them every day in the United States of America are ending their life through suicide. 11 youth a day. And that includes our college campuses, where there are over 1,100 suicides every year on our college campuses. It's stuff that we don't talk about enough and we don't deal with enough. We need to get the word out there. So that's why your proclamation is so appreciated today. We need more awareness, education, and funding for mental health services. In closing, I thank you very much for this proclamation. Suncoast Mental Health Center is really pleased to be part of Indian River County and really working with our children and families and adults also on their mental health needs.
Thank you for your kind words as well. I just want you to know that you mentioned the Office of Sheriff, and oftentimes, and all law enforcement agencies, I see City Bureau Beach Chief is here as well, and we all know that law enforcement officers respond to situations that more or less oftentimes are not just a left curve, and it's nice to know that we have a rapid response from organizations like yourself, all of the agencies, because those minutes mean a whole lot, and as soon as that officer gets the information, they can start taking the corrective action that's sought, needed, and most certainly well appreciated that organizations like yourself are out there.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Really appreciate your support and all that Chief Curry and Sheriff Law and everybody in law enforcement does. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the hard work that they do.
That's for sure.
Blessed to have them aboard.
That is for sure. Yeah.
Great.
I think we can.
Our next item on the agenda is a proclamation designating April 25th, 2015 as the 7th Annual Indian River County Day of Service, and this will be given by Commissioner Bob Solari to Bishop Charles E. Halbert. Bishop. Commissioner Solari.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm very happy to read this proclamation. Nope. The day of service, I've got the story. Pass it there.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm now very happy to read this proclamation designating April 25th, 2015 as the 7th Annual Indian River County Day of Service. Whereas the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a long history of providing humanitarian services in response to emergencies and natural disasters. And whereas the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been challenged by its leaders to extend the same service to those in need during times other than emergencies, hence the Day of Service. And whereas on the Day of Service, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will volunteer in their communities and link arms with other churches, community organizations, local businesses, and residents of all beliefs in an effort to assist and serve the needy and less fortunate. And whereas the Day of Service provides a much-needed service to those most in need in the community and is an opportunity of different faiths, beliefs, civic organizations, and businesses in Indian River County to share and work in service together. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, Indian River County, Florida, that the last Saturday of April is dedicated as a day of service in Indian River County, and urge all citizens of all beliefs and churches of all faiths to be aware of this in Indian River County Day of Service as the day in which our community of different faiths and beliefs link arms to beautify our community and lend a helping hand to those in need. Adopted this 21st day of April 2015 and signed by all 5 members of the Board of County Commissioners. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for coming today.
Good morning. Thank you very much. We appreciate the support of the Commission over the years, and thank you for reading that proclamation for us. I know last year Commissioner O'Brien was present at our kickoff ceremony and actually spoke to us for a few minutes, and we appreciate that support for the activities. It was 7 years ago that one of our church leaders planted a seed of an idea in our minds about joining together with the wider community to provide service. And we had a handful of people who took that vision and ran with it. And we started off with half dozen projects the first year. About 100 people participated, and probably 8 or 10 of the churches in the area joined us. Over the years, we've had over 75 projects, and probably more than 24 organizations join us in this effort over the years. This year we have 12 projects, and if you'd like, I'll just highlight those for you so you have an idea what we'll be doing this year. Somewhat of a traditional meeting that we have is with Habitat for Humanity and the Neighborhood Revitalization Project, and we'll be out in the Gifford area painting 5 homes that they have selected for us to work with. And we'll also be working at the Habitat Restore, helping them restock and organize their materials there. Be working with the Hibiscus Children's Center and the Women's Club, doing some landscaping, mulching, and painting of some items there. We're working with the Keep Indian River Beautiful organization to do some cleanup work at the Oslo Cemetery and also along Oslo Road from US 1 down to the infamous boat ramp. We have a project with the American Red Cross to clean up all their vehicles. Most years we're joined by a lot of the high school students who love to wash those vehicles for some reason, and they have taken that on almost as a personal project each year. By the river up in Sebastian, we'll be cleaning windows, washing their windows. We even do windows, so it's working with the cat shelter here in town, Cat's Meow, helping with some cleanup there. Harvest Food and an outreach center, again restocking and doing some cleanup work there. And then the last group will be preparing lunches, and so if you come and join us, you can get a free lunch as well as a T-shirt. I'll have our public affairs person, Rob Volsky, just kind of outline the groups that have joined with us and the sponsors that we have this year, so you know who they are.
Thank you, Bishop. Bishop Hauber covered most of the information, but I just wanted to reiterate that this Saturday we're expecting about 200 volunteers from around the community to gather at our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on 12th Street, to organize a volunteer group to go out into the county and to help serve. Again, this is one time a year, but we're hopeful that many of the volunteers will get introduced to one of the agencies by their service and then come back at other times during the year, such as has occurred in the past. We couldn't do it, of course, without the assistance of other churches and civic organizations, including the support of the county commissioners, so we thank you for that as well. But I want to just bring it out into public eye. This is an ecumenical event. It includes a number of churches, including First Presbyterian Church, Temple Beth Shalom. Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Fort Pierce will be joining us this year. Community Church of Vero Beach, Unity Center of Vero Beach, the Women's Club, First United Methodist Church, Salt of the Earth Ministries, and St. John of the Cross. They just joined up with their youth group just within the week. So, including the city of Vero Beach and the county council, and the Indian River Sheriff's Department for providing the sound system, we try to invite the entire community to come out. Everyone is invited to participate. So come join us this Saturday morning. It's early. It's an early registration period. 7:30 for those who haven't registered online, and for those who would like to register online, it's an 8 o'clock show up at our church. And if people want to register, that's ircdayofservice.org, www.ircdayofservice.org for early registration. So thank you very much to the county board. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of you for the work you're going to be doing and for everybody who comes and volunteers that day. And I'm one of those who believes that not only can't government do everything, but government shouldn't even really try to do everything. And to build the community we have in Indian River County, it's taken churches and civic groups doing what you're doing on Saturday. And that I believe, is what makes Indian River County one of the greatest counties in America. So again, thank you very much for all you do.
And I think that really, it's not just those that you're going to help out on Saturday. You hit it earlier whenever you mentioned the residual effects. I mean, you're going to find people that say, oh, I didn't know this existed, or this is really where I think I want to put my time and my talents. And so that's going to be the good thing that comes out of this. So we certainly do appreciate y'all spearheading this event. And again, one last plug again for the date, time, and location.
That's April 25th. That's this Saturday. The kickoff breakfast is at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's 7:30 in the morning, early morning. But as part of the incentive, my wife Mary is making muffins, and she's well known for her baking ability.
And the church is located between 27th and 43rd Avenue on 12th Street.
Yes. 3980 12th Street.
There you go.
Yes.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown.
Good seeing you. Have a great day. Thank you, gentlemen.
They do a sketch.
You can give it a volunteer.
Thanks.
This will be your day of service.
That just become another volunteer.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Our next proclamation is a proclamation it's a presentation designated May 7th, 2015 as National Children Mental Health Awareness Day. And this will be given by Commissioner Zork to Rosanna Gonzalez. Rosanna, there you are. Welcome. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. This proclamation designated May 7th as National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. Whereas addressing the complex mental health needs of children, youth, and families today is fundamental to the future of Indian River County. And whereas the need for comprehensive, coordinated mental health services for children, youth, and families places upon our community a critical responsibility. And whereas it is appropriate a day should be set aside each year for the direction of our thoughts toward our children's mental health and well-being. And whereas the Francis Langford Children's Center at New Horizons of the Treasure Coast, Inc., through its unique approach to serving children and adolescents ages 6 through 17 in crisis, effectively cares for mental health needs of children, youth, and families in our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that May 7, 2015 be designated as National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day in Indian River County, Florida, and the Board encourages residents and all agencies and organizations interested in meeting every child's mental health need to unite on that day in the fundamental necessity of a year-round program for children and youth with mental health needs and their families, adopted this 21st day of April 2015, signed by all 5 county commissioners. Good morning.
Good morning. Rosanna Gonzalez from New Horizons. On behalf of John Romano and our board, I'd like to thank you so much for giving us a proclamation. Really what I wanted to do was showcase our Francis Langford Crisis Center. I don't know if you all know that we had almost no beds after the hurricanes, and this center has been a lifeline for so many children in crisis. When I talk about children's crisis, I want you to know that we're dealing with suicidal or homicidal threats or attempts, psychotic behavior or symptoms, extremely aggressive behavior towards others, significant pattern of running away or out of control behavior, recent discovery of physical or sexual abuse, significant depression, and destruction of property. We have served in the area in Indian River County over 500 children this year. And one of the things that I want to remind you is that one of the things that I like to tout is that all mental health issues have recovery in them. They are all there is a hopeful place for these kids to get better. And the fact that we have a receiving unit and a mental health facility that can take care of kids in 3 to 7 days and stabilize them and then send them off to our collaborators to get more help and more consistent help, we're really saving lives in the community. And I thank you all for bringing attention to the Francis Langford Children's Center.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And somebody return the favor on the camera.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Thank you very much.
Our next presentation is a presentation and proclamation designating May 1st, 2015 as Law Day, and that will be given by Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And who do we have? Okay. Good morning. Welcome.
We have Mr. Blake Smith, Esquire, with Rossway, Swan, Tierney, Berry, Chairman of the Young Lawyers Division of the Indian River County Bar Association.
Well, welcome. This is a proclamation designating May 1st, 2015 as Law Day. Whereas Law Day is an occasion of public acknowledgement of our nation's and Florida's heritage of justice, liberty, and equality under the law. And whereas Law Day has been annually proclaimed by the President of the United States since Dwight D. Eisenhower proclaimed the first Law Day on May 1st, 1958. And whereas the United States Congress in 1961 encoded the presidential practice into law, statutorily designating May 1 as Law Day. And whereas the year 2015 marks the 800th anniversary of a milestone in legal history, the sealing of the Magna Carta at Runnymede, England in 1215. And whereas the founders of our nation drew upon the principles of Magna Carta in drafting our cherished documents of liberty, including the Declaration of Independence, the United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. And whereas Magna Carta has become one of the world's most enduring symbols of liberty under law, and whereas Magna Carta continues to be a source of inspiration in the international struggle to advance human rights, and whereas promoting public understanding of the roots of our freedom is an important component in the civic education of the citizens of the United States and of the state of Florida. And whereas the American Bar Association has identified the 2015 Law Day theme as Magna Carta, symbol of freedom under law, and whereas Law Day, May 1st, 2015, will be commemorated in the state of Florida with a free Ask a Lawyer program, lawyers in the classrooms, and a breakfast honoring judges and their staff. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that May 1, 2015 be designated as Law Day in Indian River County. Adopted this 21st day of April, 2015, and signed by all 5 county commissioners. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Commissioner O'Brien, and thank you all for this proclamation. It's really incredible to think that 800 years ago was the sealing of the Magna Carta, and here we are today. The Ask a Lawyer event is on April 30th. We've kind of taken the whole week for Law Week. The Ask a Lawyer event is at the Indian River County Library from 10 to 4. We've got about 40 lawyers volunteering their time. It's a really important event because we're bridging the gap between the services provided by the Florida Rural Legal Services and the Public Defender's Office. There's a gap in there of legal services that some of our underprivileged community members need. So we're happy to provide that. The following week, we've got about 50 lawyers spread out into elementary, middle, and high school classrooms throughout the county. They'll be meeting with classes to discuss Law Week. We've talked with the teachers to get what they've been teaching so that we can interact and really impress upon the kids the value of democracy and the law and those rights and liberties that we all enjoy. So thank you very much. It'll be a good week for the Indian River County Bar Association, and we welcome this publicity of the Ask a Lawyer event and the lawyers in the classroom because it's something very important we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is it true some of Commissioner Davis's relatives were at the Magna Carta signing? They
You
got a picture.
Come right down here to the middle.
That would be a yes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right, that moves us to Proclamation F, which is a proclamation designating the month of May 2015 as Historic Preservation Month. And this will be presented by Commissioner Solari.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I see Ruth Stanbridge, County Historian, coming down to the podium. And now that she's arrived, I can say that I'm very happy to read this proclamation designating the month of May 2015 as Historic Preservation Month. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for economic development, tourism, promotion, growth management, neighborhood revitalization, fostering local pride, and maintaining overall community character. And whereas historic preservation encourages community reinvestment, saving resources, and promoting socially, culturally, and economically rich communities. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas the theme for National Historic Preservation Month 2015 in Indian River County is Valuing Our Sense of Place, Discover, Preserve, Cherish, co-sponsored by the National Trust for Historic Preservation and the Indian River County Historical Society. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, Indian River County, Florida, that the month of 2015 be designated as Historic Preservation Month in Indian River County, and the Board encourages all citizens to recognize the vital role historic preservation plays in our community. Adopted this 21st day of April 2015 and signed by all 5 members of the Board of County Commissioners. Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning. My name is Ruth Stanbridge, and I live at 4835 66th Avenue. David Foster, our president, I'm not sure I'm doing this right, of our society was called to teach today. So that's why I'm here to thank you on behalf of our board for this proclamation. Since 1983, the Society's mission has been to discover, or in some cases rediscover, and to preserve the natural, cultural, historical resources of the county. And from saving Jungle Trail in the 1980s to supporting the archaeological and historical surveys in the 1990s, and today promoting the eco-heritage tourism of this 21st century, the Society and the citizens of Indian River County are very much aware of the term a sense of place and also of its value. With the newest threat looming in the skies of a fast-moving train, the cultural and natural and historical resources of the county are in jeopardy, and the Society intends to do their part. Your proclamation today and those we are gathering in the next few weeks during National Historic Preservation Month will be used at an appropriate time and in the proper venue to demonstrate this commitment of our county and the other counties to our resources. So again, we thank you for your time and your attention, and we also want to remind you at 10 o'clock in the morning in Roseland, there's a historical marker being designated, so we hope to see you there.
What day is that?
The 22nd, Earth Day.
Which is tomorrow.
Wednesday.
Tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
So everybody should come out to Roseland tomorrow at 10 o'clock. It'll be a great
and
event.
enjoy our historic preservation.
And I'll take this opportunity to thank you and the Historical Society for all the work you did on the draft environmental impact statement. It was tremendously helpful, and also helpful in getting the state to actually move that document along. It seemed like they had some problem getting it from their office to the FRA, and your help and work helped get it, or move the document forward. So thank you very much.
And we're not done yet.
Oh, we're certainly not done yet.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for all you do.
Yes.
She wants to wait. There she goes.
All right. Next we have the presentation of emergency service preparations for May Mayhem, presented by John King. John, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, while John's coming here, as you all know, just like hurricane season is bearing down upon us, May Mayhem is rapidly approaching, and I've asked John and Sheriff Lohr and Vero Police Chief Curry to update us in the community on the preparations they're taking to be ready for this, so that the community will know we're doing all we can to prepare for this and to make sure that everybody's going to be safe and all that. So I've asked them to make these presentations just so we're all in advance prepared for May Mayhem.
And I understand that if they have family coming into town in the month of May, they need to go ahead and prepare now for accommodations. I hear we're running out of that quickly due to the fact of some of the things that are coming up. So we certainly do appreciate this presentation here today.
Good morning, Commissioners. And my presentation today, with the record, my name is John King, Emergency Services Director. We're very excited about what's going to happen at historic Dodgertown with the upcoming championship and playoffs. And this morning you've heard some very serious presentations and deserving presentations, and I hope you'll take my presentation in the spirit that's intended, is that we are emergency services. We're going to have folks out at the ball fields when the events are happening out there. However, we are always the department that looks for the best in the community, but we also have to prepare for those unfortunate things that might happen in our community by the very nature of our work. And for that reason, I have created a draft resolution that may be necessary for this event. And so I'll start by saying this is a drill message, number one. I'm presenting to you Resolution 2015-May Mayhem. It's the Indian River County Resolution declaring a local state of entertainment and merriment. Whereas Indian River County is designated as the host county for the state of Florida softball finals for women's collegiate and high school championships, and whereas walk-off home runs and 6-4-3 double plays may cause emotional disturbances for the fans in the bleachers, and whereas the state of Florida softball finals have the potential to overflow commercial businesses, create significant traffic flow problems due to rubbernecking, and create loud cheers heard by those within 5 miles of historic Dodger Town, and whereas Indian River County and the City of Vero Beach will be initiating predetermined protective actions and staging fire rescue and law enforcement emergency response teams at the ball fields, and whereas Indian River County Emergency Operations Center has been activated to facilitate the rapid deployment of emergency response personnel if needed. If the situation warrants, the Florida State Emergency Operations Center may dispatch mutual aid. And whereas Chapter 252.38 Florida statutes provides authority for political subdivisions such as Indian River County to declare a local state of entertainment and merriment and to waive the procedures and formalities otherwise required of political subdivisions by law, pertaining to take whatever action is necessary to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, this 21st day of April 2015, that a local state of entertainment and merriment issued for May Mayhem shall be declared effective May 1 through May 9 for all of Indian River County, including all unincorporated and incorporated areas. This local emergency declaration will be in effect for 9 fun-filled days. So if the event arises, I'll present this to you for signature. And so thank you very much.
Absolutely. And for those of you that were here during the hurricanes of 2004 and 5 and in Wilma in 6, please note that don't panic, John has his tie on right now.
I have my tie on. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a great memory. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, John.
Then next we have the presentation by Sheriff Lohr from May Mayhem. Sheriff, welcome. Keep us safe.
Well, good morning, Commissioners, and on behalf of the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, it's an honor to make you all aware of May Mayhem, which is coming up. It's 9 days that law enforcement is prepared for very significantly. I was on the phone most of the evening with Mr. John King and the Chief of Police, Dave Curry, and we came up with a checklist. Anytime we have an upcoming event, we always go over the list. So for May Mayhem, Mr. Baird will be thrilled to know that we've double ordered cotton candy, hot dogs, as well as enough water for the entire several dozen teams that are going to be visiting our community in May Mayhem. But most importantly, we've talked to some friends above, and we've ordered up fantastic weather for May Mayhem. So thank you.
Yeah, in addition to that, Sheriff, I thought it was very coy of your agency. You disguised the training as a United Way game.
Exactly.
But your training event that you took place of having 6,000 people come out there and be a part of that disguised as a United Way event was stellar. And the community had no idea that's what you were training for, was in fact this event. And
be assured that we're prepared. And for Mr. Solari, we've done a pro forma budget already, so we're looking good for that, and we're going to try to keep overtime down. So
right, Sheriff, since you mentioned me, I wasn't going to say this, but I'm really happy that you actually came to the podium and didn't ask for more county money.
I'm coming up in a few minutes.
He won't let you down.
Next we have Police Chief of Vero Beach, Mr. Curry. Chief Curry, welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, County Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I can follow the two that preceded me. We've been in preparation for May Mayhem for quite a while, unbeknownst to most people, because we do things sometimes covertly, if you will. So in preparation, we're treating May Mayhem as a really bad storm, and we talked about the 04 and 05 storms that many of us were involved in. But with a real bad storm, it's coming, and that's a good thing. And also, where there's going to be landfall. So we know the storm's coming, we know May Mayhem's coming, and we know where landfall is, and that's beautiful historic Dodger Town. So in preparation of that, we have all our resources in place, we have all our personnel, essential personnel, on standby. And I just want to leave you with this, that if you are out at the ball fields and you look around, some of the umpires could potentially be SWAT team members. So just think of that while you're in the stands.
Don't argue the call, right?
Eating your double order of cotton candy and pulled pork and whatever else you fill your bellies with. But we're glad to be here, and hopefully it's a great event.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. Mr. Zito, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Commissioners. Michael Zito, Assistant County Administrator. What is May Mayhem? It is a collaboration of community partners, including Indian River County Parks and Recreation Events Division, the Indian River State College, Sebastian River State High School, and of course the Treasure Coast Sports Commission and Historic Dodgertown. All of these entities come together to try and create quality events for our community and to attract tourism and quality of life events for this community. And we're real excited about it. As you see, our logo's been up on the Indian River County website for quite some time now. There's links on that website for ticket information. Let me just point out, women's softball is on the rise as a spectator sport. It starts with Little League and travel ball, as most sports do, and works up to these events. These events will be the incubator for major college recruiting throughout the country. In fact, let me start with the FCSAA State Softball Championship. That's known as the Junior College Championship, and the top 2 teams out of that event will go on to Utah for the big dance, the national championship. Of course, the high school portion of May Mayhem is in the week that follows, and this is our 3rd year in hosting that event. Let me take an opportunity to thank our public safety leaders for their spirit in helping us promote this, and generally in all the support they give us when we try to fill the town with tourists and participants and parents and grandparents. They never say no, and they're always there to support us, so I want to take a moment to thank them. I will say that on the website we have listed 4 of the top 20 teams in the country will be participating in the college championship. And just looking at my phone this morning, I see the rankings have changed, and now we have 4 in the top 10. So you see the College of Central Florida, and they're number 2 in the country, and as of this morning, Seminole State is 7, Indian River State College, our very own partner, is 8th, and Chipola is 9th. So we're going to have some high quality participation here in the area of women's softball. You cannot go through an evening or a weekend without checking the guide on your television these days, right around wherever your ESPN number is, and you will see a women's college softball game in the lineup. And give it a try. Check it out. It's competitive. It's quick-paced. And these gals are prepared. So with that, I'd like to introduce the executive director of the Treasure Coast Sports Commission, who had the idea to combine these 2 events into the moniker of May Mayhem, because we were preparing for this event in the midst of March Madness, and up with the idea came Rick. So come on up, Rick.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, Commissioner, fellow Commissioners. It's when we first sat down and talked about hosting the FCSAA State Softball Tournament for essentially the junior college, and then pairing it with the FHSAA State Softball Championships, we was in the middle of everybody preparing their brackets for March Madness. And it just sort of came upon and says, well, you got March Madness, now we're going to have May Mayhem. And that I did not have any idea that it was going to snowball into emergency preparedness operations, police officers. This is going to be a fun-filled 2 weeks of high-caliber softball, and we encourage everyone to come out. We've got special ticketing prices for youth girls the first week for the FCSAA, that if they come out in their uniforms, in their jerseys, that they will get a discounted ticket of $3. And we have worked with our great partners at Historic Dodgertown that they will also be able to get a hot dog and a Coke for $2. And so it's you cannot pull this off in these 2 events without recognizing our significant partners for the first week for the FCSAA. Of course, yourself, Indian River County. And then our host school and institution is Indian River State College. And then our facility that is first class, best in the state, with Historic Dodgertown. And then the following week, working with the FHSAA, this is year 3 of our hosting this state tournament. And then the Wednesday and Thursday of that week, we will be hosting 1A, 3A, 5A, and 7A semifinals on Wednesday, championships for those classifications on Thursday. Then comes in the even classifications, the 2A, 4A, 6A, and 8A for Friday semifinals and Saturday championships. And so we're looking forward to it. We're looking at hotel room nights to exceed well over 1,200 for the 2 weeks. That's a tremendous economic impact for the region, and we're excited about it. And one of our new monikers for the Treasure Coast Sports Commission is the fact that we want people to experience what Vero Beach and Indian River County has to offer. So not only as they are here competing, we want them to go out and eat in our restaurants and see our museums and get a true flavor of what it's like to be in the Treasure Coast. And again, we're excited. We thank you for your support. I cannot go on without personally recognize Rich Nalbandian. He's the heart and soul behind everything that for us with the Treasure Coast Sports Commission here in Indian River County. He just tells me, show up, I show up. He tells me what I say. I hope I did a good job, and if not, when I get back to the office, Rich said, well, you know, you could have done this, and you could have done this, and FYI this, and that. But we're very fortunate, and we're excited to have him on board with us, as well as our partners with Indian River State College, Sebastian River High School for the State High School softball tournament, and then historic Dodgetown. Again, thank you for your support.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Davis, what I add, I just would like that we have a preliminary score that's come in on the front page of the New York Times this morning, and it says Dodgertown 1, Ghost Town 0. So that's our first score, and this is on the front page of the Sunday New York Times. Cool. And it's just a testament to some of the magic that's being created out there. Of course, we all remember last week's Jackie Robinson game. But while that game was happening, little did we know that the Montreal Alouettes, a professional Canadian football team, were stretching as the fireworks were going off on the multi-purpose field. So if you think about those two worlds coming together, it's quite amazing, you know, the diversity and quality of events that are happening at Dodgertown as we speak. So thank you very much. And I think Brady's here. I want to thank him for a great job the other night. And he also has copies of the article for each one of you he'd like to share with you. And for ticket information on May Mayhem, please contact the Treasure Coast Sports Commission or our newly created event coordinator, which was a position that we created out of a vacant recreation leader position, assigned those duties to volunteers and other student intern type employees, and hired, and I'll have a chance to introduce her right now, Miss Jillian Sparks is in the back and is our new event coordinator. So please give her a welcome. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I think it bears repeating. You all remember the process we went through at the land swap of the city and the construction of those quad fields, which led us to be able to get the contract for the girls' high school softball championships. And it was during that first year when the girls' high school teams were playing that championship and the college coaches were there scouting them that they got the opportunity to see that facility. And they said, wow, this is a fantastic facility. And then that has now led to the fact we were able to host the college championships here. So it's just, one thing building and leading to another. And it's just a great, I think, tribute to what they're doing out there at historic Dodgertown. And as you heard, 1,200 hotel rooms in May is a big shot in our shoulder season. And so this is just all, just been working out great. And just congratulations and great work to all those who have been involved in it. It's really been fantastic.
Absolutely, this is truly growing into the vision that we've had for it, and it's just it gets better and better.
Mr. Chairman, today we had a little bit of promotion for such an event. There, I just wanted Mike to comment. This is not a one-shot deal. We have a commitment.
Yes, these events are competitively bid,
yes.
And when we go out for them, we try to retain them for a fixed period of time. In this particular case, a 3-year commitment. So we make a nice impression in year one and build into a 3-year arrangement like we have with FHSAA.
They were overwhelmed by that quad.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. That finishes our proclamations and presentations and moves us into the approval of the minutes.
Move approval of March 24, 2015 minutes.
Got a motion from Commissioner O'Brien with a second from Commissioner Zort to approve the minutes for March 24, 2015. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Now we have the consent agenda. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to pull B Bravo, C Charlie, D Delta.
C and D?
And Mr.
B,
Chairman?
C, D.
B, C, and D.
B, C, D. Commissioner Solari?
No, I was going to pull B, but Commissioner Fletcher already did.
Okay. All right.
I have one item G.
B, C, D, and G. Okay. Let's go ahead and dispose of the consent agenda as amended.
Move approval as amended.
Second.
Anybody
from the public wish to address the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. That moves us to item B. Commissioner Fletcher.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And again, as you know, the Audit Selection Committee met to ensure that we have the very best in auditors for the good people of Indian River County. Many people in the room served on that board, and it is with great pleasure that I state that we have had great service in the past by the organization that's been recommended, which is Riemann Robson. There might have been a slight name change, but the performance and the individuals, it's a local company that has done great service to us in the past, and we are pleased to recommend the approval of the continuance of such a great firm. With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion from Commissioner Fletcher to approve item B, which is the Audit Selection Committee recommendations of the audit firm, found on pages 18 through 19 in your backup. Second by Commissioner Zort. Yes.
For discussion?
Yes.
It's basically my understanding when you have an auditor that after about either 5 or 10 years, it's a good practice to change the auditor. Agree that the firm Riemann Robson and its predecessor firm has done a great job for the county, but just for the sake of discussion, I want to bring this up, and just because I think it would be a better practice to change the auditor once in a while, I'll vote against the motion.
Okay. Commissioner O'Brien.
I had the same concern as Commissioner Slurry, but discussing this with Mr. Baird, with the name change and kind of the business reorganization, there apparently is an entire new team of auditors that's working on our books. So, again, I kind of shared the same concern as Commissioner Slurry had, but knowing that there's a whole new team looking, I feel comfortable going forward with the selection.
And I want to say, I'm not feeling uncomfortable with the board action. It's just one of those things that I think ought to be part of the discussion, and I just want to...
I agree 100% with you, Commissioner Slurry, and just... but I think, to my point of view, with the whole new team in there, I think we are getting a fresh look and kind of getting a recycled look to it, so I'll support the motion.
Is there any further... Yes.
I have one. I'd like to maybe make this a policy for when we put other RFPs out, and looking at the prior contracts for 10 years, the price hasn't increased in 10 years, and there's very few things that the county contracts for where the prices have maintained static quo for 10 years. Looking forward to great continued work in the future.
Any further discussion? Anybody from the public?
Mr. Chairman, there was a comment about a desire or need for change, or that it always should be part of the discussion. I just wanted to assure the general public as well as members of this board that was part of the discussion, and it most certainly did not prevail in any great form. But there was a great discussion. I think Jason has the evaluation, and the evaluation was overwhelming, but it was part of the discussion about that desire and need for change at any cost or all cost, and the other factors most certainly prevailed, so thank you.
Okay. Anybody from the public wish to address this issue before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Solari dissenting. Okay, that moves us to the next item, which is item C, which is the Dory Schlossberg Driver Education Safety Act. Commissioner Fletcher?
Mr. Chairman, yes, and again, very happy to move forward to approve. I just wanted the opportunity for Jason to be able to give an update. There's been some inquiry. We're making some changes, and I just want to let the public know how it's moving. There's been inquiries about how the process is working. Jason?
Sure. Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Fletcher. For the record, Jason Brown, County Budget Director. As you know, this board approved a resolution to reinstate the Dory Schlossberg fee after it was ended in 2006. It was reinstated March 1st of this year, so we've begun collecting the fee again. In accordance with that, we have sent out funding applications to the school district and St. Edward's School, the two agencies that we're aware of that are eligible applicants for these funds. Those applications are due back on Friday, and we will present the results of that through the normal budget process to award funding to those agencies to utilize those dollars in accordance with the statutes.
So, and when will be the next update? You anticipate within 2 weeks from that?
We typically would work that through the budgetary process, but we can bring an update back to the board at a sooner time if you would like.
There are many people that are excited that we will again be returning back to a driver education form, and that I think the public would like to know exactly when it's going to be initiated. There's a lot of people in line waiting, so thank you. With that, Mr. Chairman,
good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Smith, Clerk of the Court. I just wanted to inform you that there will be a check coming from my office tomorrow for this very item for $1,618. That represents the amounts that we've collected so far since we've reinstituted this. There should be more coming on the old charges as we're concentrating on collecting some of the old debts that are out there. So we'll see some more money coming in shortly.
So we can thank not the best of drivers for the future of the better drivers?
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, gentlemen.
With that, motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve from Commissioner Fletcher, and I'll second it. Is there any further discussion? Anybody from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. That moves us to item D. Commissioner Fletcher, you pulled that one also?
Mr. Chairman, had a little bit of concern looking at that item, and that is the request for authorization for trade-in on a vehicle. This situation came up, I believe, in the last discussion or request for a trade-in, and what we have is the request by the property appraiser to trade in a Jeep Liberty Sport, a 2006 with 52,000 miles on it, and the request is for a $4,500 trade-in. A quick look at Kelly's Blue Book. If you want to look at wholesale and retail, and they ask if you want to deal directly to a dealer, the low end was a little over $7,000, $7,900. And if we were to think of taking that vehicle and selling it to a private trade or a private buyer, you can get as high as $9,200. Now, I just wanted to just put that out there. We're looking at $4,500. We are good stewards of the taxpayer's dollar, and I know that I see Sheriff Laura's here, and when he exchanges vehicles, they're basically still serviceable, but they're not worthy of responding to life, limb, and the pursuit of a safe environment. And we're looking at trading in vehicles. Sheriff, it was about 90,000, 100,000, 115,000. At 50,000 miles, I think I couldn't agree to approve that. I think we have to be better stewards.
Mr. Chairman, I also have a question, if I might. This is also trading in a car to purchase a used car. If I'm reading this right, that it's to purchase a 2013 vehicle with 16,000 plus miles on it. I don't know, just seems, I put 40,000 miles on in a year, and 52,000 on a vehicle is 2006 plus. If we were buying something from Fleet and it was a new car, but still the age, I know our ambulances and fire trucks are run basically till the wheels fall off. Same thing like the sheriff's vehicles, and their heavy duty use, emergency use. I wouldn't be in favor of this particular item.
And I can tell you, when we're mentioning the law enforcement and fire and EMS, I can tell you firsthand that the law enforcement vehicles are pushed to the limit. And if they're worthy of being pushed to the limit at 100,000, I think we have a little bit more time on this to be better stewards of the taxpayer dollar.
Mr. Chairman, I would concur as well. I ran the Kelly Blue Book numbers and got numbers similar to what Commissioner Flesher revealed. And unless there's something materially wrong with this vehicle that we're not aware of, I think the $4,500 is grossly inadequate for the value of that car. And I'd like to buy it for $4,500, quite frankly. I can't approve this either.
And trading your truck?
I know that. I'm running out of duct tape.
I have 177,000 on mine as well.
I got 150 plus on mine. So I got
Mr. Chairman,
241,000 on mine.
Motion to deny.
Motion to deny the request.
Got a motion to deny the request for the trade-in, and a second. I got a motion from Commissioner O'Brien with a second from Commissioner Flesher. Is there any further discussion? Sure.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
I'm Debbie Clemency with the Property Appraiser's Office, and we're the ones that put in for this request. And the Kelly Blue Book that we got was $3,200 on the trade-in value on it. This is a 9-year-old vehicle that has, now it has about 60,000 miles on it. It does have significant issues that will have to be addressed that would go into our budget for repairs, as well as tires that are dry rotting on it. Our vehicles are not used the same as the Sheriff's Office or the emergency services. They are used to go out and assess property. We don't put the miles on them that the Sheriff's Office nor the hard driving that they do. We're not chasing anybody usually. So when we put these together, we look at the time frame, the life of the vehicle, the mileage that's on it. These years we're trying to move our fleet forward. We've bought a couple of vehicles in the past. The trade-in value I thought was fair because it was, like I said, it was $3,200. I'm not sure where you got the $7,000. I'll have to look
It's
again
Kelly
at
Blue
that.
Book based
Right,
on
that's what I looked at as well.
the mileage, the VIN, the year, and the type of vehicle that it is.
And fair for the
I've seen the vehicle travel
Yeah.
throughout this compound.
So we felt like that we were getting a good deal. The reason we went with the 13, what's out there now is 15s. If I go to the bid process, it's a 16 that's out there, and we might not get a vehicle within this year's budget because of the time frame of when they would have to do it. We couldn't order it until June. Then it's not going to be here till August or so. So it puts a time frame for us to get a vehicle within this year's budget that we had already gotten. And we were looking at the Traveris on the bid, but on the bid process, but they had one on the floor here that was only 2 years old with $16,000. It is a certified vehicle. We felt like it was a good deal. We went to David and talked to him about it, and he assured us that when he can, he likes to leave the money in the county as opposed to sending it out. And I agree with him in most instances with this. I think it was a good choice. I'm sorry that this has come up as being denied, but I just wanted you to know where we stood with it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question since she's up. Is this for a single appraiser to go out and analyze a piece of property?
Yes, that's all it is.
Because I know for a $24,000 value, when we do fleet purchases for, say, the building department pickup trucks and those things where just one person rides in them, you can get pretty close to that in brand new dollars. Now, I know you don't need a truck, but there's other things that are...
We went with the, I'm sorry to interrupt you, we went with the SUV because we have a van that is a 2000 that we won't take it out of county now. We had purchased that to take for our staff to go to conferences and things where more than one person could ride. But we went with an SUV on this one because it was available on the bid process. And then we ended up finding one on a lot here, and we can get more than one person in there. We also, within our vehicles, have to mount the laptops in there. So that takes up part of the front seat when you're trying to transport more than one person somewhere. So that was the reasoning behind the SUV, and the cost of it, when we priced it out on the bid, it was $27,000 on the bid. So as opposed to spending $20,000 now, we're going to spend $27,000 if I have to go to the bid process.
At least that's 0 mileage, brand new,
could be
off the lot versus, and nothing wrong. Certified pre-owned, those are usually great, and the folks at Linus are outstanding folks as well. But it seems like there might be a better way to package this, either surplus
I can't see
it, sell it
spending
outright.
more of the taxpayers' dollars for that, though, when we can get one locally.
But on the trade-in, we're giving it away.
One at a time, Commissioner Bryan.
I think part of the discussion is, I'm not sure why we're replacing this vehicle.
Age.
Age
9
is one
years
thing. Yeah, but it's low mileage. I mean, for $1,000, you can buy new tires and a tune-up, and this thing will go another 5 years.
No, I can put more money into it. I just put about $2,000 into another 2006 Jeep that we have.
And that's a lot less than $24,000. I mean,
well, and we can certainly go that route. We cannot increase our fleet, but when we get into a situation where we have to put miles on them, then you're going to have our gentleman at risk then with not a roadworthy vehicle. And we do keep our vehicles up. We do a lot of maintenance on them to keep them as roadworthy as possible, given the situation that we have. So.
Well, at 52,000, it appears, and you're saying 60,000, so perhaps maybe we were given the wrong numbers?
It was a little bit lower. That one hadn't been driven in a while, so when they went out and checked it, the last gas ticket that I had in-house was one thing, but when they went out and checked it was closer to 60. But that's the miles that we put on them, which isn't a lot in 9 years, because that vehicle was bought brand new.
And it appears to be that we have a few more years to come.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody from the public wish to address this? My issue is just a little bit different. I don't want to get in the middle of whether or not you need a new vehicle, but I've always been a proponent of more of an arm's length transaction with the trade-ins versus going to the auction with the process. That way, if Commissioner O'Brien thought at $4,500 it was cheap, he could go there and bid and participate in that. So
the auction process, though, we ran into it the last time we were denied a trade-in. The auction doesn't happen for 6 months. Then somebody has to sit that vehicle for 6 months or so. And we didn't want to be responsible for the maintenance on it while it's set till the next auction came up. So I understand they're working on a new process for, moving the fleet that have been surplus forward as opposed to letting them sit on concrete for 6 to 8 months.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to deny signify with aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. That moves us to the last item on the consent agenda, which is G.
Yes, and if John could come up here, question I have, not on the purchase, but I'm trying to see if, as I've been putting together data for response data, it seems like we have the 911 data gives us one piece. You can import that to GIS. Will this program allow us to kind of maybe put everything under one umbrella? So if we want to look at demands, calls for service, peak time, off-peak, will this extend to that, or is there something we could add to that would accomplish that? Because I see it as a forecasting tool of what should we do, where and when, and the way I put the data together works, but it's not a good way to do it on an ongoing basis. So I don't know if this might be something that if maybe they have a module to add where we can import and create mapping and demands for service. So maybe if you could explain that a little bit.
It's a very good question, but this is a totally separate software. This is the software that's used in the EOC. And it's the same software that the state EOC has and most of the county EOCs have. And it allows us to share information such as when we're doing evacuations, shelter data information, persons with persons with special needs registry information, and it allows many of the federal, state, and local agencies and private nonprofits have this software so we can seamlessly share information from one software database to another. The one that we currently have is about 8 years old. That software is not being supported anymore.
Is that the one that they do the run logs on, or is that a separate one again?
This is totally just for the EOC.
Okay.
Does not
doesn't move over to the day-to-day.
Doesn't call for service data information.
Okay. Well, at some point, I think we'll look at that so we can better manage, to help us manage where we go and when for demands for service. But
I would totally agree with your last statement.
Right. Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'll make a motion to approve item G.
I've got a motion to approve item G from Commissioner Zort with a second from Commissioner Flesher. If there's any further discussion or anybody from the public wish to address this? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
With your indulgence, I know we kind of approved consent agenda, but item O, I'd just like to briefly mention. Sure. And this kind of goes back to what you brought forward a couple of weeks ago, moving forward on the modular units for the fire rescue stations. And this is just an item where we have actually put the order in for 2 of those modular buildings to house the firefighters while we undergo the construction and repairs, and also a budget amendment to allocate the funds to move that forward. And I know you had brought this up as a priority, and I just think for the public, just to make it, let everybody know that we are moving forward on this, and we are purchasing those units, and have appropriated the funds to move that all forward. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. Any other comments under the consent agenda before we move on? Okay. That moves us to constitutional officers, and we have the Indian River County Sheriff Lord, application for Office of Justice Programs, Bulletproof Vest Partnership and Grant. Welcome, Sheriff. Got a motion from Commissioner Slaughter and a second from
Commissioner Slaughter did that?
Yeah. That's half price. Of course you do it half price.
We got with a second from Commissioner Zort. Is there any further discussion? Anybody from the public wish to address the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Sheriff.
I'll continue looking for good deals.
Now, I hope you remember that, Sheriff.
I will. Thank you.
Right.
Next, we have the under public discussion, request to speak from the Rigbys regarding the revisitation of the recent award of contract for waste hauling. I do not see the Rigbys here, but out of courtesy to them, in the event that are they? Okay. Then I tell you what we'll do. We'll go ahead and move forward with Mr. Whittall B, and then whenever the Rigbys come in. Welcome, Herb.
Thank you. I'm Herb Whittall. I live at 19 Park Avenue in Vero Beach, and unfortunately I won't be here on May 5th. I want to thank you for considering the ordinance to control short-term rentals in Indian River County. What you've proposed is a start, but much more is necessary. I've given to Commissioner O'Brien and your attorney's office a copy of the Monroe County Ordinance, which is much more comprehensive, and a copy of the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation that requires these rentals to be licensed by the state. I hope you will read that ordinance and consider adopting some of the provisions in your ordinance. I also gave each of you a letter from a committee of the IRNA outlining some of these provisions. I hope to see that these provisions are necessary for the best interest of you, the County Commission, and the residents of Indian River County. I'd like to read that letter quickly, and then I'll finish up. On May 5th, you will be voting on a resolution to restrict short-term rentals to having just 5 cars maximum. This is authorized by Section 509.0327 of the Florida statutes. Indian River County has had several instances where the short-term rental occupants have caused grievous harm to the residential neighborhood. This section allows you to make establishments that are rented out for less than 30 days meet the commercial requirements for parking, fire, life safety, sanitation, noise, and occupancy. The county has chosen only to apply one of those, parking. Commissioner O'Brien and the county attorney have been given a copy of the Monroe County Special Vacation Rental Permit documents that are much more complete than yours and could be easily copied and turned into a comprehensive Indian River County ordinance. However, if Indian River County decides not to enact the Monroe County ordinance, the Indian River County should at least enact the following. Inspect each premise and ensure that all bedrooms have working smoke alarms and the living areas has a working carbon monoxide alarm. The occupancy is restricted to no more than 2 persons per bedroom. The sanitary system is adequate or hooked up to a sewer. Garbage containers are present. The premises be registered with and licensed and inspected by the county for use per Florida statute. These are all available to the county under Section 509-0327 of the Florida statute. It is up to you to request your staff to write up the ordinance for your approval. Going back, you will probably hear from owners that these provisions would interfere with their property rights. But remember, their neighbors have property rights also. The right to a safe, quiet, residential neighborhood that protects their property values. We are not trying to ban short-term rentals, only regulate them and make them safe. Now, I live in the city of Vero Beach, and so I'm not covered by the county ordinance. However, let me tell you why I'm involved. I've been a member of the National Fire Prevention Association for over 20 years. I'm a member of the electrical committees for NFPA 70, the National Electric Code, which this building is wired under, NFPA 99, healthcare facilities, and NFPA 110 and 111, which deal with standby power. I'm also working with the Consumer Product Safety Commission and Underwriters Laboratories to try and make portable generator sets less lethal. You probably heard on the news 2 weeks ago how 8 people died when a father brought in a gen set, put it in the kitchen, and started it up. A small gen set puts out a lot of carbon monoxide. Carbon dioxide will suffocate you. Carbon monoxide will poison you. It accumulates in your blood and it kills you. The NFPA sends out a magazine every month listing fire deaths. Many of those deaths are due to house fires in houses not equipped with smoke detectors. Some of those deaths are because a smoker fell asleep on a couch or a chair with a lit cigarette. With young people overindulging in alcohol and smoking, this could easily happen in a transient rental. Therefore, I'm asking you for at least put in the Indian County ordinance the following. Make the owner license the property with the county so you know how it is being used, and then require an annual inspection to ensure the property has working smoke detectors in all bedrooms and the living area, and a carbon monoxide detector in the living area. However, the complete adoption of the Monroe County ordinance would be the best and safest option for all involved. Hopefully, you will now ask the county attorney to put together a much more comprehensive ordinance for you to vote on at your May 5th County Commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Anybody got any questions? Herb, I appreciate you bringing this forward. I had brought forward the parking issue, trying to, I don't know, maybe kind of deal with this elephant, one bite at a time. I've had a chance to briefly go through the Monroe County Code, but personally, I'd be glad to sit and have more discussions and look into this and maybe look at a more comprehensive approach. I'm just not sure the board would be ready to do that by May 5th, but I'll continue to work with you and discuss this and look at a more comprehensive package. But I do want to get the parking thing, move forward. I think that's a good first step towards this. And you are correct; those are things that, from my understanding of the state law, that we do have the authority to regulate. The only thing we can't touch is the frequency or duration. But all the things you mentioned in your letter are certainly things to consider. And a couple of things that have come up, as we get into this a little deeper, is one, garbage pickup. Currently, I think a lot of these homes are, they're getting curbside pickup as a residential rate in volume, but literally they're generating commercial levels of garbage, and same with the The septic and sewer, I think, might be an issue to look at. A higher volume of waste going through a septic system isn't necessarily good, and we might need to look at that. But again, I think on the 5th, I'd like to get the parking thing done and organized, but would be more than glad to continue working with you all on a more comprehensive look at it.
Well, I agree that it's kind of short notice by the 5th, but I'm glad you'll be looking forward down the road, because I think we need to regulate them before we have a disaster on our hands somewhere, because we'd have them.
One of the things, Herb, that I've noticed about them is there's some of them that aren't a problem, and there's others that are, and they all seem to have a reoccurring theme for those that are. And that is the owners are having the tendency to rent these more as event halls versus short-term rentals. And when I say that, it's kind of like they're advertising wedding events. And clearly, if you were to want to do something like that at your house in this county, you would have to go through the process of the special exception in order to make that happen. And it's almost like, because these are short-term rentals, that then they're being used for these large events, that if you were just having a graduation party or decided to host, one of your children's weddings, that's totally different than it being on a website being for rent for wedding purposes, and that's where I see the system being bastardized almost. And so I don't know whether the parking issue is going to address all of that or not, but I'm looking forward to trying to find some solutions to these problems, because there's so many of them that aren't. But then again, I got a call over the weekend about one up near Ambersand that was, and so trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the South County and North County is where it's the worst, apparently.
And it's on the barrier islands, as I understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If I could have Stan come up, because you brought up the question about being licensed, and I think we do require, if we know of a vacation rental out there, we do send them a letter that they do have to be licensed with the state. Is that correct, Stan? If you
that's correct. Stan Bowling, County Community Development Director. When we do get a complaint, we contact the state to ensure that they do their investigation to determine if they require state licensing. So we do kind of act as eyes and ears for the state to make sure they go through that process.
And then the follow-up is, then they should also be collecting the sales tax and also the tourist tax for
we
rentals
coordinate with the clerk of the
6 months
court.
or less.
That's correct. We coordinate with the clerk of the court office and the property owners association if we have a contact for them.
Right. Okay. Good.
Chairman, I have one question, and I've had a number of meetings with the folks in the I don't want to say fire marshal's office, but the fire protection side. And when somebody takes their home and they register it with the state to make it basically a business, then I think the same business rules that apply to the bed and breakfast folks, the capacity per room that you had mentioned, ingress and egress requirements, the same thing, because we have a number of very well-run, very nice bed and breakfasts, and they went through all the hoops, all the requirements, and these people are kind of just circumventing that whole process and getting in at really an unfair competitive advantage to the folks that have done things right. Also, then you get into, as the ADA rules for the occupants that the bed and breakfast folks have to address that these people don't. So I'm clearly, and also I've found I've been contacted from people by Rockridge and a lot of inland neighborhoods that are glad that the discussion's coming up. That said, it's not just the beach, even in Rockridge and other places in town. It's becoming more of a prevalent problem, and I wasn't aware of that before until they reached out to me and expressed that there are some heavy concentrated areas on the beach, but there seem to be some others located inland as well.
Well, it seems that the rental business has taken off because since 2008, people haven't been buying their houses to live in, and this has come up and it's sort of exploding at the moment.
Well, and I certainly understand. I mean, I don't know if any of the commissioners here, whenever you go on a vacation of some kind, especially if I'm going for a week, I'll explode inside a hotel room. So, I utilize vacation, houses, but and try to be cognizant of the neighborhood, of course. But I understand why. I mean, I used to go to the mountains back before I started going to the Keys, and it can go up there and stay for a week. It makes economic sense, and it's a whole lot more pleasant than it is. Just the problem is sometimes you've got some bad apples that really make it.
Yeah, well, they ought to be required to have at least working smoke detectors.
Sure.
The NFPA is actually trying to push that single-family homes that are built are now sprinkled. Now, to do that retrofit is expensive.
Yeah.
When you build it, it's not so expensive.
Right.
But, because of the fires and the number of people that are dying in fires in houses that are not protected.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, you pointed out the concern on the parking, and Herb is here today, and I know he can't be there then. I just want you to know, Herb, that your recommendation is far more appealing to me, this one county commissioner, regarding short-term rentals as opposed to the parking. There was a few recent gatherings, events, weddings, that the parking ordinance would not have done anything for or to correct any kind of problem. But with some of the safety requirements, I believe that you might curtail some of the action endeavor and then again ensure public safety. Mm-hmm. So again, I want to thank you for your response here today, and we'll take that into consideration as well. Mr. Chairman, you mentioned something at Embassy, and I just want you to know that, there's a little concern that our code enforcement team has to thoroughly examine, assess, and investigate, and it is a burden on the taxpayer as well, that we have to have teams of people out there to see where the concern is. I received the same call, and Stan is here. I know that he's got people working on that one situation today.
Good.
So thank you. I hope you put in some enforcement teeth in it too.
Almost like a citation program, because if you wait, it's kind of when you call DBPR to report an unlicensed activity, it takes them a month to get here to look at it. By then the job's done and over with. But the building department at one time had a citation program that could be issued basically on the spot with a notice to appear or respond or something with it, so maybe we can look at that element as well.
Well, code enforcement has some tools to deal with some of the scenarios that have been taking place on the temporary housing, vacation rentals.
Well, thank you. I look forward to working with you, and if you have any questions, you know how to get hold of me.
Thank you, Herb.
And have a great time visiting that grandkid.
Thank you. Two of them.
Two grandkids.
You're not staying in the short-term rental?
You're not staying in the short-term rental, are you?
Okay. All right.
Staying with my kids and a Marriott.
There you go.
Thanks, Herb. All right. I'll tell you what, let's just take a brief recess, and then we'll reconvene at, let's give 10 minutes, so at 10 till we'll reconvene.
Like, that's got to be a tough job up there.
No, it's. Yes, at 5 o'clock. That's when I took a little walk into it. It is really nice. And you walk in there, you want to think you're in there.
So we're starting off with Rigby's next.
Meeting will come back to order. We left off under the citizen input portion, and we will go back to the item 10B1, which is the request to speak from Bill Rigby regarding the revisiting the recent award of contract for waste hauling. Mr. Rigby, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Bill Rigby. I reside at 8465 59th Avenue. Mr. Chairman, I had made a speech up. And I'm not going to do that speech this morning. I'm going to go unscripted this morning. And in going unscripted, I'm going to try to be of reason. But Madam Clerk, before I speak, I would like to make you to the record that I'm only here to speak on RFP 2015-023. Will you make that part of the minutes for me, please? I've been before this commission on many times. Maybe I've been harsh in my approach to this commission. Maybe I have not been humble enough to see certain things. But this morning, I spent some time in this speech, but I'm not going to do it. Also, I'm here this morning to see what I can do to improve the relationship. And I don't know if I can or not. I pray every night on my knees, ask God to give me courage and understanding so I can be a better person, so I can speak eloquently to get things done. And all of saying that, you have a RFP now that's going to be awarded to Waste Management. And that awarding of that contract, you have a language in there called encourage small business, or you encourage subcontracting. I believe in this contract now is an opportunity. It don't have to be the Rigby brothers. It can be a white female. It could be Asian, Indian, or it can be African American, or it can be Native American in this contractual obligation. But in this contractual obligation, you have an opportunity now to improve it. What I mean by improve it, you have waste management. I'm sure that waste management would be, I'm going to use the word glad, to subcontract some minority group. And I believe that if staff, if this commission will allow that to happen, that can occur. And I'm sure that, I look at it like this, in the Gifford area right now, you don't have that much participation in recyclable, you don't have that much participation in garbage collection, residential collection service, and you have a lot of, I would say illegal dumping still there now, not as much as you used to have, but you still have that there now. So I'm saying if you get someone that's in the community, it doesn't have to be the Rigby brothers, or it can be any small minority or small business that in that area, certainly would improve, number one, the recycle aspect of it, certainly would improve the residential aspect of it. And I'm only here today to encourage that. As you notice, my speech today was that the revisiting of the waste haulers. But I decided when I got in this chamber this morning that I was not going to do that. I was going to go unscripted. And I'm talking to you today unscripted on an issue that I think is a win-win situation for everybody. I know the attorney always says that when I come up here that I do have a lawsuit against Indian River County, which I do. But I'm saying that to amend things of the present situation, I think that we all can sit down and come up with a logical and reasonable solution to the problem. Because you're asking for certain things in this current contract. You're asking for participation in a lot of areas where you don't get it. And I think it's a win-win situation for everybody. I think if this council will sit down and direct staff in a way that encourage small business to participate in this contract, again, I think it's a win-win situation for everybody. And Mr. Chairman, I believe that if that happened, I think it's a win-win situation for everybody. And I do have a speech, but I said today I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go that route because I don't feel that it's necessary right now to go that route. So I'm not going to go that route. I'm talking to you this morning unscripted. I'm talking this morning from my heart and what I feel. And by feeling that way, I think it's a win-win situation for everybody. But my topic this morning was the revisiting of the waste haulers franchise agreement. And I decided not to go that route, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this board to forgive me for not going that route, but I thought it was feasible for me to go this route this morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wrigley. Appreciate it. Okay. That concludes the citizen input portion of the agenda and moves us into the departmental matters, which is the 12A1, which is a consideration of modification number 1 to the Voltage Inc. contract for detailed targeted industry analysis and request for partial funding for economic development, branding, audit, and marketing plan services. Memorandum dated April 9th, 2015, found on pages 166 through 179 in your backup. Stan, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a follow-up, really, to an item that you all looked at your March 3rd meeting. At that meeting, you were presented and you considered and accepted the Strategic Positioning, Target Industry Assessment, and Action Plan for Economic Positioning. And that plan includes 6 implementation strategies. And at your March meeting, it was presented that 3 of the strategies, strategies 2, 3, and 4, would involve hiring consultants and outside service providers. And you all directed staff to move forward with those items. Since that time, county staff and chamber staff have met together on timing and implementation and cost sharing for those 3 strategies. And as the information is presented in your staff backup, those strategies include conducting a detailed target industry analysis and some deliverables out of that, conducting a brand audit and marketing plan, and then developing a standalone economic development website that would kind of be a collection point for items either from the unincorporated county or the cities that the Indian River County Chamber is involved with. All 3 of those strategies have some costs assigned to them, and what staff and the chamber staff propose are some ways to implement those 3 particular strategies. One is the detailed target industry analysis, and that would be for the county to modify its contract with AD Advantage to conduct that analysis, which will result in a report and positioning statements for different target industries. The proposal is for that to be funded by the county 100% at a cost of $16,000, and there is attached to your backup a contract that AD Advantage has executed, and that information would be reported to the EDC and to the board as well. The brand audit and marketing plan would be handled completely by the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce. They would contract out for services and manage that process. And that would be cost shared between the county and the chamber 50-50 for an amount not to exceed $12,500. And that information would also be reported to the EDC and the board. And then the standalone website would be a responsibility of the chamber, 100% funded by the chamber. And that's the proposal that's before you all this morning. The 2 recommended actions recommended by staff. One would be to approve the modification that's attached to your backup to have AD Advantage contract with the county for the detailed the detailed industry analysis, target industry analysis, and authorize funding not to exceed $12,500 for the Chamber of Commerce brand audit and marketing activities. And I will point out that Helene Castletine from the Chamber is here as well, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
I have one that may be more Helene related, and it's on the item that's the standalone website. I know in talking with the consultant, trying to get that rightly pictured homepage with the links to the data that the site selectors are looking for, and it seems like in looking at a number of these that there's a good, I don't want to say cookie cutter template, but one that we don't have to create something from scratch and use the, have the consultant say, here's the 3 best I've ever seen, and then we pick from something like that to try to have as much information addressed as what those folks are looking for all the time.
Right. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Helene Castletine, Economic Development Director with the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce. And Commissioner, you're correct. There are websites out there across the country, some good, some maybe not so good. We have been advised as to, take a look at this one, and there are templates out there. There are firms that specifically work on economic development websites, and those would be the ones that we would look at. For the website development, as Stan mentioned, those costs will be borne 100% by the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Division. So we'll be looking at other firms, not necessarily AD Advantage, although they have given us some recommendations and some advice. They may be the firm that we select, but maybe not. So there are firms out there that do this specifically for economic development organizations.
Right, okay.
And then just to add, as far as the marketing, the brand audit and marketing plan, we have met with a representative from AD Advantage, and I would say at this point probably we will go with that firm because they have such an in-depth knowledge of Indian River County. They know us so well. They know who we are and what we can do. So I would say at this point we probably will use them for the brand audit. But there are other firms out there that do this as well.
Any other questions or comments? What's your pleasure?
Move staff recommendations.
Got a motion to approve staff recommendation from Commissioner O'Brien with a second from Commissioner Flesher. Anybody else from the public wish to address this issue? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you,
ladies.
Commissioners.
Thank you, Stan. That concludes the community departmental matters. It moves us now to the county attorney matters. Resolution urging the Florida legislature to establish a 3% cap on county Medicaid costs under Section 409.915 Florida statute. Memorandum dated April 15, 2015, found on pages 180 through 182 in your backup. Welcome. Kate.
Good morning. Kate Pingold-Cotner with the County Attorney's Office. Last week, the board authorized the County Attorney's Office to draft a resolution urging the Florida legislature to establish a 3% cap on the annual growth of the individual Medicaid costs. And this is the resolution. It was brought forth by Commissioner O'Brien.
All right. Commissioners, any questions?
Move approval of the resolution.
Got a motion from Commissioner O'Brien to approve the resolution with a second from Commissioner Solari. If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
That moves us to the next item under the county attorney's matters, which is the emergency item that was added, which is the 13B, attorney matters approval for the expert witness fees for Abazi. Mr. DeBrawl, welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Chairman, Bill DeBrawl on behalf of the County Attorney's Office. We have before you today the expert witness fees and costs incurred in the Abazi's matter. You'll recall that this went to a 4-day trial back in 2012. It went up on appeal to the 4th District Court of Appeals. Court of Appeals denied the appeal and ruled in the county's favor. Now is the kind of time to clean everything up after all the litigation is over, and these are the expert witness fees that were incurred by the Abazi's family throughout the course of the litigation over this parcel 102, not parcel 108, as I have indicated in the header on this matter. These costs were reviewed not only by Bill Doney, our outside counsel, but the costs were also reviewed by our experts that we used during the course of the trial. Mr. Doney and our experts all agree that these costs are reasonable, that if the matter would proceed to a hearing next week, that they would be testifying that the costs would fall in this range as far as the proposed settlement. Therefore, it's our recommendation that you go ahead and approve the costs as set forth before you. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer.
Commissioner Bryan.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Bill, explain to me why we're paying these fees, because I thought when we made the offer of judgment and the award came back below that and the Abazi's had refused to take the offer of judgment, then that precluded us from having to pay any of these fees. So how did that get mixed up?
That's correct. We did indeed make an offer of judgment. The offer of judgment was extended to the title owners as far as, or to the litigants that were named in the suit. There is a court rule and a statute on offers of judgment in an eminent domain case. The judge ruled, after it being challenged by the Abazi family attorneys, Judge Cox ruled that this matter, as far as the inconsistency between rule and statute of the apportionment of the costs, or apportionment of the offer of judgment to the various landowners, was inconsistent, and therefore the offer of judgment was struck down, unfortunately. Mr. Doney litigated that issue for the county. I attended the hearing. The judge was, I think understood the county's position in the matter, that a valid offer of judgment had been made as far as the timing. It was just the inconsistency that existed between the rule and the statute that she found that it was not a valid offer.
What did we learn from that? $182,000.
That what we learned from that would be that what we've already learned, that we always lose in these matters, even if we win. I guess that's the other thing. If we would make another offer of judgment in the future, that we would try and make it so specific that it could not run afoul of the inconsistency that exists between the statute and the rule. But what you're going to find in these cases is that there's no downside to litigating almost every single issue. The other side just has no downside. They have the full support of the statutes and the rules because they're representing the landowner whose property is being taken. And it's a tough thing to argue. And it's a tough thing that you folks have to face when you're looking at a fee, attorney's fees for a matter, of a case that they lost, that we have to end up paying somewhere on the upside of $180,000, as you can see in the chart before you.
My question also, Bill, is then in this matter, was there an offer at which the property owner made as far as what they would take for the property at the very beginning? And I don't remember, so I don't know. I'm just
there was an offer. I think I brought an offer before the board. It was like $815,000 or $805,000 for the property. That was well above what the county had, what the board was authorized. And
you know where I'm going with this, though, and I'd like to try to get to the bottom of it, which basically which one would have been the best for the taxpayers.
Well, in hindsight, the Monday morning quarterback is always the 100%. It would have been better to go ahead and take the $805,000 and be done with it. But on the other hand, if you're going to litigate these type of cases and you're going to use eminent domain, you have to be able to show the other side that you are willing to litigate the case and make them go through their process of proving up their case. And so, yes, it's...
Yes, Commissioner Zort.
Maybe because this isn't the first one of these we had, since there is a glitch between the statute and the rule and how the judge had to look at it, maybe we could add this to our next year's list of legislative solutions, and I think other counties are in the same boat because we probably all lose all the time. Is there any way to make the to refine whatever the problem is so it makes it a little bit clearer, so when you do make the offer, they reject it, then they don't get the second part because they decline the offer?
Yes, you'd be able to clarify that. I would caution that you'd be handing whoever, if it would be Kate or our lobbyist, a lightning rod, because any time that the eminent domain statutes are challenged, you're going to have the landowner bar in force out against you, and it makes for very good publicity on their side that they're representing the poor landowner whose property is being taken away from them, and here is big bad government trying to put the screws to them in just another fashion and force them to compete unevenly on this playing field.
And quite frankly, Commissioners, I mean, this is how the system's designed. It's not by accident. Anytime the government takes somebody's property, whether I'm sitting here as a commissioner or what, it is designed to be painful, as it should be. It's not. So we need to just make sure that whenever we're taking property, that it has the clear beneficial use for the public of Indian River County, and go into it with our eyes wide open that this is going to hurt, and it does.
That's right. But in this case, Mr. Chairman, this goes beyond painful to punitive. I'm not saying we should do anything to the state legislator, but this one was just wrong.
No, well, and this drives home the point is try to do as much as you possibly can to have a willing seller.
Right.
That's where it says, and understand you're going to pay. You're either going to pay expert witnesses $180,000, or you can give it to the landowner and get it resolved quicker.
I agree.
And you brought up a point. Yes, it's painful, and this is not just a gentle reminder. This is a tremendous burden on the taxpayer. But the system itself is engineered so that the owners of the property are compelled to go as far away from the local jurisdiction as possible for their expert witnesses, and those prices are all artificially inflated due to the fact that you're talking about firms that had never been in Indian River County until the day in which they were called upon to do this act. And these numbers are quite substantially overwhelming. Yes, Councilor?
I'm just going through the numbers someone was mentioning over here. I think it was the county administrator, that roughly the dollar amount that we paid for the property was about $630. But this is well before my time, before I got here. Bill, does that sound about right?
Yes.
So $630 plus the $182. Obviously, we spent county dollars for attorneys' fees for our own attorneys and our own experts, but the two numbers added up is roughly about $820,000. I guess the offer that we were talking about that was on the table was roughly about $805,000. So it was roughly close. There may be times I could see where the numbers are just so far apart that it may make sense to go through this process, because I think on this one, what it appeared to me to be was close to a wash, except for the fact that we ended up paying our own attorneys' fees and
do we know roughly how much that was? And did we have any experts that we had to bring?
Actually, you know what? Instead of putting anybody on, and I would like for these numbers to be, and I don't mean this as on the spot. I want accurate numbers. I want to be able to say, especially if there's a way of looking at this entire scenario on some of these property owners, because we're going to have to go north eventually with this.
But Mr. Chairman, we went north on this. We went to $750,000.
No, when I say north, I'm talking the next section.
Yeah.
I'm talking phase 3 and 4.
That's painful.
Yeah, but with that, I'd like to know, just how far apart at first blush were the numbers versus ultimately at the end of the day where we wound up, and not to determine a winner or a loser. It's just in the event that it comes back before us again.
A case example of how these turn out on both sides, just to look at. So when you have an offer in the future on something,
exactly.
Well, if I go this far, because in this case, none of this money went into the homeowner's pocket.
None
of it.
And that's where it belongs. When we are looking at getting the roadway accomplished, we need to reward the landowner that we are imparting upon, and it's tremendous. I mean, I know that these numbers represent substantially travel, hotel stays, meals, accommodation. I mean, it's just what the taxpayer paid for is just, it's revolting. But it's the cost of doing this action with the set of rules and circumstances in which are presented to us. Okay. I want to thank you for some of the more positive actions that have been taken as we've moved throughout that corridor, that some of them were not as so important as these numbers are. So thank you.
But I would, for if the ones that, if we could, we'll go ahead and take care of this right now, I suppose. Is there anybody else wishes to any more discussion on this, Commissioner Bryan?
Bill, I know we don't want to go into a cost hearing to debate the actual cost, but is there an appeal process for Judge Cox's decision?
Yes, there would be. We talked about it as far as Mr. Doney and I, and we both came up with the same feeling that it needs to be fixed, and an appeal wouldn't fix it. And if you appeal it, you're talking about attorney's fees that we would have to pay on the other side unless we would prevail. And so it would be another $60,000, $70,000 at a minimum as far as an appeal on the matter, just like we talked about as far as the appeal for the Public Service Commission.
And all these fine folks would be compelled to appear, in which we would be paying their ride back up.
You wouldn't have the expert witness fees. What you would have in that case is the appellate fees, attorney's fees on the appeal.
I think even a legislative solution, if there is one, where it's still, and I know they'll put us as the bad guy trying to take the small guy's property, is how to, there must be some, well, at least maybe between you and Kate, we can see, is there something we could put forward that preserves the property owner's rights, but also makes it fair to the government side when we do make an offer in this glitch issue, is we're trying to fix the glitch. We're not trying to take money out of the property owner's pocket. And
I think that the problem is the political winds at the state's capital are blowing in the exact opposite direction.
Well,
and I can see them making the eminent domain situation worse on the government, and I don't know that wouldn't get passed by both houses and signed by the governor.
Right.
And so this is the system we have to work in. It's a beating when we go through it, so we shouldn't go through it unless we absolutely have to and can look the taxpayers in the eye and man up.
The willing seller is the best solution.
Absolutely. I've been consistent on that all along.
Or willing donor, if that could ever happen.
Oh, yeah. They always like to. They're willing donor. They get tired of that on April 15th.
There is one instance where I can think of where someone willingly donated property.
Yeah, what was it? The cyanide-laced cattle vat over there on the barrier island?
Well, Mr. Chairman, my gut says vote against this because I hate it, but I realize we're stuck in a position where we have to do something with it. But is there any way we can have a vote under protest or anything?
You can make the motion, and we can do it. How just you have the floor, Mr. Chair or Mr.
I'll move we approve it under protest.
And duress.
And yeah, all that.
And darn right mad.
And dang mad.
A second.
Got a motion to approve under duress, protest, and darn right mad from Commissioner O'Brien and seconded by Commissioner Flesher.
With the complete license to add any other adjectives that you
clerk has free reign
choose to break out the thesaurus on this one. If there any further discussion, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you,
and Bill, I would, just how many more of these do we have out there on 66th Avenue? Does this wrap up that section?
The final one that we have will be the Laurel Homes matter.
No, on 60. Well, that is 66. My bad. You're right. Okay.
66.
Without that one, because that one's still pending. But if we could, I'd like to get some consensus from this board to now that we've got figures to delineate what it was that they were asking to begin with versus what it was we wound up settling for, and quite frankly, we know there's staff time in it, but I mean I don't want to go in there and throw some hypotheticals as far, and not to say that your staff time's not valuable, and we get that as far as the dollar, but I want hard dollars out of our pockets just to say, we could have given this for a settlement or at what they were asking and be done with it and move on versus this dragging out for however much time. And I'd like that if we could on the 3 or 4. I know, how many do we have on 66?
We had the Abazis, we had Bethel. Those were the two trials that we had. And then we had some other settlements as well. If it's the board's desire, I can put something together that shows our attorney's fees, our costs versus trial, settlement, however you want to try and talk about the numbers. I'll just try and put them out there and use them for comparisons.
Just for educational purposes.
That's good.
In the future.
I can bring something like that.
You good with that, Commissioners? Just on consensus?
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, while we're on this, Bill, any update on the Winkle thing? I know we've got that kind of still outstanding.
Notice that it's...
I did notice it's for sale.
You got a big yellow sign.
As far as anything else, I have not had any contact with Mr. and Mrs. Winkle at all. I don't think Mr. Moore or Mr. Kafer has had anything with them. I'm sorry,
there's a for sale sign in front of the property.
Yes, yes, it is.
Big yellow for sale sign, which is complemented with a row of nice trees and the fence is completed now.
I can just talk to you real quick about a couple of issues with that being District 1 now. Used to be District 2.
Happy to have you have it.
There's two property owners that have some issues there. One of them would be the Kerpels, and we're working with that. The work's not done yet. One of them is having to do with some water flow. And then I understand there may be some drainage issues to the north with the Dowlings. But at this point, it appears we're getting that worked into a corner, and these aren't settlement issues. It's just trying to make sure that whenever it rains, the water goes where it should, and trying to give them the opportunity to make the best thing out of a bad situation for everybody. So that's where it sits.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bill. All right, that concludes our emergency painful item. And now it moves to
another painful item.
Approval. Okay, we've got that. Now the all aboard. Commissioner Solari.
Yes.
Welcome.
My painful item.
Yes.
I had to go to Tallahassee. Luckily, I had the company of Dylan Reingold, so that took the edge off the trip a little bit. But yesterday there was what's called a TEFRA hearing before the Florida Development Finance Corporation, and this was basically a hearing to see whether the FDFC should act as the conduit for the offering of $1.75 billion in transportation facilities revenue bonds. And this points out to be another great example of why I loved unaccountable bureaucracies. So you really need a Mark Twain or Will Rogers to put the hearing in the proper way. But imagine for a minute if this was in Indian River County and we had a very important issue that came before us. Something like the mining issue of a few years back, or the Oslo boat ramp, something which basically filled the chambers here. And imagine now that the hearing starts for this important issue, and you have Mr. Barrett in his seat and Mr. Reingold in his seat, but our 5 seats are empty. And that's what you had yesterday at this TEFRA hearing. There were about 125, 150 people who went to discuss a $1.75 billion item.
With a B?
B. That's obviously crucially important for at least 3 counties on the Treasure Coast. You had the executive director and another member of the FDFC, employee of the FDFC. But the 5 members were absent. And I can only guess that the staff will do a synopsis of what happened and let the board members know about it sometime in the future. So I find that to be a real abomination. But it gets better. The applicant gets to have about a half hour to 35 minutes or so to make its presentation. And it has a PowerPoint, and it's really nice and everything. But then anybody else who wants to comment is restricted to 3 minutes. And originally they said...
Commissioner, sorry, I do believe on one issue that's not correct. Who spoke after the presentation from the president from All Aboard Florida? Was that individual limited?
You mean the chamber member? Well, see, the chamber member, that's a little bit difficult because it wasn't clear whether that was part of the All Aboard Florida application, which I took it to be, and how they let somebody else get up and speak as part of the All Aboard Florida application. That's another problem. I mean, I'm only going to be able to bring a few of the problems of yesterday's hearing to 4 today, and not many of them. So we'll go on to the next one. This was great. They have an exact way of going forward with all public comment. You have the applicant, and after the applicant, you have elected officials, and after the elected officials, it's commentators from the area affected by the bond, and then after that, it's commentators from areas not affected by the bond. It's wonderful. So the application by all aboard Florida is done with the special commercial from the Chamber of Commerce, and so then their procedures for the public hearing states that after the applicant and elected officials, there were some elected officials who spoke, and that was interesting too. 6 elected officials spoke. All spoke against the project, but no elected officials spoke at that time for the project. So after the applicant and elected officials, the next one to speak are commentators residing where the tax-exempt proceeds are to be spent, and the call was for Brevard County. And who gets up? Ron Book, a high-paid lobbyist whose office I know is in Tallahassee, and I thought resided in Tallahassee, but he's suddenly speaking as a resident of Brevard County. And this was good. Mr. Book, very good, very high-paid, speaks for 3 minutes, and within 3 minutes of speaking, he left and went on, I guess, to represent some other high-paying customers in other important proceedings. So as you go through it, who spoke for and who spoke against the All Aboard Florida project? Well, who spoke for? You had multiple lobbyists who spoke for it, multiple lawyers who spoke for it, multiple construction firms who spoke for it. All Aboard Florida must be a member of at least 47 chambers of commerce, and they were all there speaking for it yesterday. And a member from the Port Association came, and he said that all the ports of Florida support All Aboard Florida. Not one just regular citizen spoke for the project. So yesterday was a great example of money talks, communities suffer. There were a number of when it got to commentators who didn't reside in the affected areas, there were a number of people from Indian River, Martin, and St. Lucie County who spoke against the deal. But the long and short of it was that yesterday's TEFRA hearing was another great example of why you should never leave important decisions to unaccountable bureaucracies like the FDFC with its appointed board members. And I will say that I thought our side did very well, all things considered. I judged it as basically a tie, which, given that All Aboard Florida must have essentially paid 25 people to be there, or at least called in that many chits, and most of our side was there either, well, a few paid people, but most of them were concerned citizens and elected officials. I thought we did a great job. And Mr. Ryan, who's an attorney for CARE and the County of Miami, did a very good wrap-up, basically asking, from Martin County, did a very good wrap-up, basically asking the FDFC to announce at least 30 days in advance the rules of the game next time. Because from when it initially set its initial notice out to the time of the hearing, they totally changed the rules of the game. I mean, initially, in all caps on their TEFRA hearing notice, it basically says all people who want to speak will be able to speak. And then they changed the rules of the game and said that, well, the hearing will be lasted to 2 hours, and you're only going to be able to speak for 3 minutes, which I and others believe stopped a lot of people who would have had to have made 6 or 7 hour trips up and then again 6 or 7 hour trips back from actually going up. Now, I will note that they extended the time of the hearing at the hearing yesterday, but not those people who hadn't made the trip wouldn't know that. So it's going to be an exciting process going forward, and there should be one more hearing dealing with this issue, most probably in sometime in May or June, and we hope it'll be not in Tallahassee, but in an area a little closer to home. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments, Commissioners?
Maybe the TEFRA guys saw how well it worked out for the non-show of the electric officials to the audit committee, and they didn't show up either.
Yeah, I was thinking they were at the same luncheon.
Right. Or maybe they have one of those same high-powered paid lobbyists.
Well, actually, I think there's a Saul Alinsky for bureaucracies, and they've all read the same book.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Solari, for attending that, and Dylan, appreciate y'all going up there and representing us. The next item is Commissioner's report. Canaveral Port Authority Commission, memorandum dated April 15, 2015, found on pages 184 in your backup.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week I attended the Canaveral Port Authority Commission meeting to find out the status of our appearance from the January meeting, which is when would they either convene a Port Charter Commission to just add the words Indian River County. And the reason we need to facilitate the name addition is so that local businesses in the county can take advantage of a expanded forward trade zone that currently exists in Brevard County, but for them to extend the rights and privileges that are on the books that we're eligible to apply for, they have to add Indian River County to the charter, so it would say Brevard County and Indian River. So they assured me that at next month's meeting we would be an active item on the agenda for some type of a vote or action item. So I will attend that next month and hopefully bring back good news of when they will look to make those necessary steps so we can then resume the process we started about a year and a half ago, which is getting the foreign trade zone overlay for the county, and then individual businesses as they see fit can then apply for that status if they receive containers or ship containers internationally. Either side of the transaction, it comes out more efficient and less costly for them. So I'll attend the May meeting and then I'll bring back the information from that.
Any questions, Commissioners? Nope. Anybody from the public wish to address? Okay. That moves us to our final issue, which is the Special Districts and Boards Solid Waste Disposal District Franchise Agreement with Waste Management for Solid Waste and Recyclables Collection, found on pages 185 through 228 in your backup. I see Mr. Mehta and Mr. Burke. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. For the record, my name is Vincent Burke, Director of Utility Services, and I'm joined with Himanshi Mehta, who's the Managing Director of the Solid Waste and Disposal District. We have a brief presentation put out for today, and we'd like to go over that presentation, ask if there's any questions, and then provide a recommendation for the board. Do you have the... All right, so beginning on page 185 of your backup is the agenda item that has been prepared for today. We're here to talk about the franchise agreement for solid waste and recyclables collection services that will begin on October 1st, 2015. And briefly go over the decision timeline, how we got to today, talk about the new changes that are coming, some exciting changes with single-stream recycling, both for the residential and the business community. We're going to carted once-a-week solid waste services, which is a departure from the twice-a-week pickup that's currently underway right now. And we're going to talk about some of the key items included in the new contract. So you're all familiar with the board approval to issue the RFP, Request for Proposals, on December 16th of 2014. It was released shortly thereafter, at the beginning of the year. 45 days later, we received the proposals. And then staff had a chance to internally vet those. There was a selection committee. There was a meeting on the 17th where no decision was made, where information was presented to the board here in this room. And then we came back the next day on the 18th. We had public input. We had staff presentation. We had information from some of the haulers. And ultimately, the board decided to recommend Waste Management for the single hauler. So after that point, board directed staff to work with Waste Management to come to terms for some of the information, which is what we're here today, to award the contract should the board approve, which would go into effect October 1st, 2015. Again, it's exclusive residential and commercial franchise area, one area. We have two current areas right now that expire September 30th, but beginning October 1, there will be one area throughout the county. We're talking about recycling for the single-stream carts. To the right is a cart that shows the lid, the wheeled mechanism that makes it a little bit easier for folks to carry instead of the dual bin systems that we have today. And then the garbage. It's going to be carted, so all the folks who choose to subscribe to garbage will be issued a new cart depending on which size that they would like. It will go to once a week to help foster more recycling, less garbage. And the C&D terms and conditions and the services remain the same. As you know, the board went with the pricing for once a week, which reduced the existing pricing by 35% for the residential folks to $9.68 per month. The universal residential recycling is $255, which is on the non-ad valorem assessments on the tax bill, and that's $255 per month, slightly a little bit higher than the $1.78 that's in effect today, but certainly with single stream and the new cart has led to an increase. And the commercial rates are 8% lower at $4.73 per cubic yard. And talk about the term and the rate adjustments. Right now there's a 7-year term to expire in 2022 with a one-time option to renew a 3-year if the board so chooses to bring that out to 2025. We did want to mention that there is a consumer price index CPI increase that is built into the contract. So every year Waste Management has to request and the board has to approve that, and it's 75% of what the CPI is determined to be from year to year. There's a universal rate adjustment. The board asked us at the time to look at whether or not Waste Management would be able to preserve the price. Waste Management certainly has been able to preserve the universal rate and would apply that CPI increase as if the universal option had been chosen, even though it has not been. Subscription has been chosen. However, we wanted to make it known to the board that there is a kicker that kicks in 2018. Should the board choose to stay with subscription only, we will have the 75% across the board for the 7-year term. However, should the board choose to go to universal, that rate will only be held for the first 3 years of the contract at 75% of the CPI increase, and then it jumps up to 100%. So there's a little incentive that is built in to see if the board wants to choose at some point in the future that particular option. So we just wanted to outline that information. Yes, sir.
If I could, so would that mean that the 75% CPI increase through September 30th would go for the full 7 or 10 years if it was exercised prior to September 30th?
So for the subscription-based services, it's 75% of the CPI as determined year to year. Every year that it goes into effect.
But if you did the universal rate adjustment.
Yep.
If we picked the universal rate adjustment prior to September 30th, 2018, would the future increases be based on 75% of the CPI going forward for the full 7 years, or just until September 30th, 2018?
That's a good question. I would hope that it would keep the 75% for the entire contract if the decision was made prior to that 2018 timeline.
And then if it were made after...
And if it were made after, then yes, then the escalator cost...
It would be 1% a year for the remaining years of the contract.
Yes.
That makes more sense, and I would think that would be hopefully the way too, but I just wasn't clear from the presentation.
And I apologize for not making that more clear.
Thanks.
Thank you. So here's a map showing the recycling franchise area, which is in the draft contract that's attached to your backup. It includes the entire county area. We wanted to show you Fellsmere, Sebastian, Orchid, Indian River Shores, and the city of Vero Beach. So this is the 2015 recycling franchise area that goes into effect October 1. Here's the solid waste franchise area. The Fellsmere City Commission on Thursday of last week decided to go with the county in terms of the counts for the area and the solid waste. So Fellsmere and their folks will be joining with the county if this contract is executed, and that's why they're included in the solid waste franchise area. The city of Sebastian has their own garbage solid waste contract with Waste Management. The town of Orchid has their own, Indian River Shores has their own, and the city of Beach has their own. So that's why they're showed in gray, because they have their different haulers for the solid waste portion. So let's talk about the carts. Waste Management is listed here because they will be purchasing the carts, and time is of the essence. We are being told that if we are to make the deadline of October 1st, a lot of these carts have to be purchased on and before May 1st. So Waste Management will be purchasing the carts. We'll have the logistics for the asset management and the delivery of these carts. There will be a standard 64-gallon issued for recycling. However, there will be an option to reduce or increase that size. So folks will have an option to go to a smaller 35-gallon or a larger 94, 95, or 96-gallon when we determine the logistics of those carts. On the solid waste side, the standard will be a 96-gallon. Again, we're only doing once a week, so we opted to go with the larger 96-gallon up front. But if that's too large for some folks, then they can opt for 35 or 64-gallon upon request. And as noted before, we're including RFID, not for tracking purposes, but for education, so that if we know certain areas do not have the put-out or the counts, we can target our education efforts to some of these areas in order to increase our recycling. Some of the key points. Waste Management has offered an introductory rate for their new program. So that's a 10% discount off the first quarterly invoice. So if folks sign up in the month of October with Waste Management, they'll receive a 10% discount on their first quarterly basis. I think that's a good incentive program to incentivize folks to subscribe to that service. That's for single-family residences. The homeowners association, the HOAs, if the HOA decides to collect that fee and pay Waste Management will also apply that 10% discount year to year for HOAs that choose to have their garbage paid directly to Waste Management. There'll be community outreach and comprehensive information on the carts with instructions. There'll be 2 town hall meetings that Waste Management will hold in conjunction with SWID to allow folks to get an idea of what's coming down the line. We also wanted to note that the county park and recycling will now have 75 containers that will be furnished and serviced by Waste Management. I think that's a big key when we have a lot of folks that either have water bottles, and you'll see some of the trash where some of these water bottles hopefully now will be diverted from the trash stream. So I think that's a big kudos to Waste Management providing that as well. There will also be some bulk waste pickup, not one time, but whenever you call. I know that there was some concern before about bulk waste pickup, so if you don't have a large pickup truck and certainly can't make it to the customer convenience centers, if you have an old box spring or bed frame or something quite large that does not go into the solid waste cart, you can certainly call Waste Management ahead of time and schedule that bulk waste pickup at curbside if you subscribe to garbage pickup.
Vinny?
Yes, sir.
And that's not limited to
That's
the once a year that was previously?
That's whenever you call ahead of schedule. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. There will be some holiday makeup. I think there was some concern last time to go to once a week. What's going to happen? So, for instance, if the holiday for some reason falls on a Saturday, there'll be on a Friday. There'll be a Saturday makeup pickup. So that's important, especially when you go to once a week. Compressed natural gas. Waste Management has decided to make an investment not only locally but also for its trucks, the cleaner, more quiet CNG, compressed natural gas. So in 2017, they'll be implementing the CNG not only on the fueling station facility but also for its trucks. And they'll phase those trucks in. As the older diesels get towards the end of their useful life, they'll be switching those out with the CNG. Frequently asked questions. Staff will be putting together FAQ that will go onto the SWID website to help residents get an idea of what's coming down the line. There'll be a transition plan within 30 days of signing the contract that Waste Management will put together, meeting certain specific timelines, as well as information that will be presented not only in the town hall meeting, but also to folks that will be looking for information. And certainly, the board took a step to do a budget amendment not too long ago to allocate some funds and to allow staff to solicit for an education coordinator. Our goal is to have somebody hopefully hired by June 1st that can work hand in hand not only with Waste Management but also the local community to let them know what services are being provided and what services will be out there. So I just wanted to go over some of those. Before staff recommendation is vetted by the board, we do want to make the board aware of one issue that deals with Indian River Shores. If we recall, we have 2 franchise agreements that are currently into effect today. On the north is Waste Management, and the south is Republic Services, Treasure Coast Refuse. Now, several years ago, there was an interlocal agreement that was signed between the Board of County Commissioners and the SWID and Indian River Shores, which basically states that SWID would be responsible for the recycling program. Now, there is contractually an obligation between Indian River Shores with Treasure Coast Refuse that is currently offering not only garbage but recycling services in the town of Indian River Shores. That is a 3-year extension that the Shores have signed with Treasure Coast that went into effect January 1, 2015 and terminates December 31st, 2017. Our current franchises, as you know, expire September 30th. So right now, the South franchise recycling hauler is Treasure Coast Refuse. But come October 1st, it will be Waste Management. So if the board chooses to move forward with the contract, we just want the board to be aware that the Shores are looking at having one company to do the garbage and possibly Waste Management to do the recycling services inside the town of Indian River Shores. So I can defer to our legal experts to talk about that more in length, but I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. I think Mr. Rob Stabe is here as well, and he can probably go into more details about some of the issues that certainly the town is facing as far as the logistics and what they have contractually with Treasure Coast Refuse. But certainly at the end of the day, it is staff's recommendation, even with these being presented out there, to have the board obviously move ahead with the signing of the contract that has been reviewed and approved by Waste Management, that has been signed by their staff, and certainly we're available for any questions, and I offer Mr. Stabe to enlighten the board as to some of the concerns that he has for the town of Indian River Shores before the board makes a final decision.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
A couple of questions, if I could?
Yes.
Thank you. On the interlocal agreement, that has a provision that either party can withdraw within 90 days?
Yes, within 90 days on the calendar year prior to October 1. Yes, sir.
Okay, 90 days prior to the calendar year?
In October, October 1 being our new...
so, I mean, it gives plenty of time for both parties not to breach the contract given our timing. Okay, so, and then it refers to some specific recycling numbers in the interlocal agreement? And what are those?
It was done in the early 90s. It was 30% at that time.
Okay, so basically the interlocal agreement is behind anyway. I mean, it's not effective. It needs to be redone.
Yes.
And I believe that when you went on your roadshow over a year or so ago to all the different municipalities, you brought that fact up and brought up the idea that there'd be a new interlocal agreement. So basically nobody or no party is being surprised by any of this. Mm-hmm. And at that time, if I remember correctly, you discussed the 75 and 5 with every municipality.
Yes.
Okay, so again, no surprises. I just want to make the point that no municipality or no individuals really who's been involved in this is having anything sprung on them all of a sudden.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Okay. Mr. Stabe, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Robbie Stabe with the Town of Indian River Shores, Town Manager. I'd like to start by just pointing out that the Town of Indian River Shores has had a very long-term, or has demonstrated a long-term commitment and participation in the county's overall recycling efforts. As Vincent mentioned, we've been part of that interlocal agreement that's been in effect for over 22 years. And we'd like to continue that. This is in no way saying that we no longer want to be part of that. I would make mention regarding Commissioner Solari's comments that none of this was a surprise to anyone. I actually met with Commissioner Solari and Vincent and Himanshu in my office a number of months ago. I forget the dates that were being shown on the board, but prior to this year. And at that time, they were explaining the process of the RFP. They were suggesting that I consider the town joining in and being part of that RFP process. At that time, I explained to them that I was already in negotiations with our current provider, which is Republic Services. And in that franchise agreement, there was one 3-year extension left that unless they were totally out of whack and not providing the service level that the contract required, that as long as we reached a reasonable increase fee, that we had no reason not to extend that contract. So at that time, I shared with the Commissioner and Himanshu that thank you very much for the offer, but I felt confident that we were going to reach an agreement. What I can tell you is that at no time was I made aware as the town manager that there is a potential that things could change from a standpoint of the service area, the way it's set up currently, north and south. It's never been an issue in 22 years that we've had Republic Services because they were the franchisee for the solid waste disposal district to do recycling. So there was never an issue in the past. They were already in our town. We were already using them for our solid waste pickups, and then they had the franchise through the county and those the assessment that's on the tax bills. the county wrote them a check, I guess once a month or whatever it is, every 6 months. At this point in time, all I'm asking for is, I understand they've done a fantastic job. I think you guys have a very good contract in front of you to sign. I realize that there are time constraints. They have to get things ordered. All I'm looking at is I was made aware of this as of Friday, that there was this potential issue and that things had changed. I certainly was not aware of it, Commissioner Solari. I can tell you that. If I had, things would have been done totally differently. But I can stand here, clear conscience, saying that I was not aware of it. So all I'm asking the commission to do, for obvious reasons, I don't think you can postpone it because they have to get things ordered. But all I'm asking for is a few days. I've already met with Mr. Baird and Vincent as of yesterday to start looking at how we're going to deal with it. I've got to speak with Republic Services, and I'd like to speak, with Waste Management. Come up with a solution, and we'll move forward.
Mr. Stabe, let me say, I'm willing to give you whatever we can. I mean, we don't live in a vacuum, and we know that decisions you make affect us, and decisions we make affect you. And so, really, I guess there's got to be something that we can do to work with the shores. I'm hoping. Can somebody have some creative ideas? He's after some time.
Mr. Chairman, I believe there is, and I believe that if Vinny and Dylan and Joe get together with Mr. Stabe, they'll be able to work something out.
Okay.
I also believe it would be appropriate to go ahead and move the staff recommendation today, which I'll do. But I also remind Mr. Stabe that it wasn't just the one conversation. We also went before your council, and while we may not have specifically said that you might have to change your hauler, we certainly put the council on notice that there are going to be significant changes to the way we recycled, which I think was clear enough notification that there are going to be changes in it. And I don't need to argue that now, but I mean...
Bob, let's not... Listen, we're trying to work something out.
No,
and I see your point.
I just wanted to correct the record.
I'm good with that, but let's not worry about the record just yet. Let's try to let cooler heads prevail here, and let's... Mr. Stabe, as far as, out of courtesy, not just for you, but in respect for your council, what is it that you would feel most comfortable with at this time to give you the opportunity of what you're needing?
I think it can be resolved in a matter of days. It's just, I know logistically things didn't work from yesterday. Dylan was not in town. He was on his way back from Tallahassee. Obviously. Would
the motion, as Commissioner Solari is proposing, does that pose problems for you, or tell me your thoughts on that?
I honestly don't know how to answer it because I haven't even made my council officially aware of this.
Okay.
And
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on. Dylan's been itching to say something real quick. Let me see if he can shed some light on something and maybe get us where we all need to be.
We've got a couple different issues. Certainly, I think I was a little bit disappointed by the late notice of this, but I have to commend both the town and the solid waste staff to really quickly trying to do exactly what you said, which is there some place to get to where we can kind of resolve this issue? I can say this morning and yesterday afternoon I received some really good feedback from solid waste where Waste Management was stepping up to the plate to essentially offer the very similar service levels that the Shores was looking for relative to what they were already receiving from Republic. So I was very excited in a very short time period that those types of commitments were being made and offered between our staff and the waste hauler that had received or that the contract we're reviewing. I was then trying to figure out if we had a delay until May 4th, what really would change between now and then, and I came to the conclusion I don't really anticipate any change to the proposal that's in front of you. I think there are just some conversations that we're going to have that we're going to sort through stuff. So I think we're actually going to resolve a lot of this outside of not changing the terms of this deal, but solving things like already what Himanshu and Vinny have stepped forward to resolve already. Turned into a little bit more of a speech than you anticipated.
No, and I appreciate that. And not trying to, and not understanding the intricacies of the agreement that you have in front of you, or that you all have in place. I don't want our actions to paint y'all into a corner that may be financially harmful to an agreement that they have. And so I'm assuming you're able to make some decisions, but those decisions aren't necessarily solely made just based on what this commission is doing here today. I don't know. I don't know how. Are you going to be penalized if you change it, or?
Again, this all came about as of basically last Friday, and then over the weekend, obviously, I couldn't get a whole lot accomplished. So, first thing Monday, I made an appointment to meet with Mr. Baird and at least get the ball rolling. So,
right, Joe, you got anything you need to add to this?
No. No, I think we have to move ahead with. I think we'll come up with a solution one way or the other, but I think we have to move ahead with this contract and what Rob's concerned about. He's got a contractual arrangement with Republic, and I think we've got to see if they're going to be a cooperating party, because if they no longer have a franchise, they won't have a franchise as of October 1, and I think we can all work that.
They would not for the recycling. They still have the ability to do the solid waste franchise with the Shores and continue that portion of what they have.
I can appreciate the uncomfortable situation that Robbie's in right now. Not saying who said what, where, and all that, but the Shores has a different level of service that has been well debated, vetted out, and agreed upon. And I don't know if we make the decision today, if that delay, I think we need to hear from Waste Management as well, is if we made a delay to May 4th, would that give you enough time to vet all of the other adjustments out, give our attorney time to deal with it, as well as would it impose any difficulty or cost factors on the purchase of the equipment necessary to accommodate their current contract? I think that's really the issue. If that delay would hurt or hinder the rest of the population, I think we have a little bit more of a grave concern. But I understand your point too, because I was present at those meetings when people spoke loud and clear how many times they wanted picked up in the level of service that they wanted. And they deserve, most certainly they've contracted to pay for it, but it is rather interesting that that level of service will also be engaged with if there is an alternative. Waste Management.
Yes, Commissioner, thank you very much. Dina Ryder-Hicks, Public Affairs Manager with Waste Management. Commissioner, I can address your question in two portions. First off, with regard to the date. As Mr. Burke pointed out, we must get orders in place and have the ball rolling on various types of items that need to be purchased on or before May 1st. Otherwise, we will be very hard pressed to meet that September 30th deadline of having everything in place, all equipment, personnel, carts, etc., so that October 1st we can begin the new service. So May 1st is really a very critical date. With the second part of your question, sir, absolutely. As Mr. Reingold pointed out, we recognize that there is an existing level of service in Indian River Shores, and absolutely, we will step up to the plate and provide that existing level of service that they have now at no additional charge of the agreed-upon recycling rate.
And so my question really is the amount of containers that you have to, totals that you have to order, and again, it has to be in by May 1st. May 4th would definitely be a delay and might impose a cost concern. But is there any way to quickly calculate whether you could order enough to service the entire county with the exception of the Shores and take that into consideration? Could you make an amendment or an addendum to your order after May 1st so that it would be, I mean, is there like a 10% allowance that, you know, if we had some wiggle room on that end, then it would provide enough comfort zone for this decision to be made and still be accomplished on May 4th? Just thinking outside.
I don't necessarily want to speak for our operations folks, but they have told us very steadfastly that date of May 1st needs to go through. Whether or not we can order 3,200 carts less to account for that, it's a possibility.
Large number.
But then the challenge would be then is making sure that we have that inventory in stock then should Indian River Shores elect to stay as part of the SWID program, and making sure that we can meet that deadline of making sure that we're able to service them on October 1st as well with the new service level.
Yeah, please keep in mind, we're at the mercy of the manufacturers, and they have other customers out there, and all of the municipalities are making decisions by October 1st. So they've got other commitments out there. Indian River County isn't the only commitment.
Okay. Just want to respect the dilemma that Mr. Stabe is in, and the amount of time he's got to respond to it. If there is an alternative and council says that it appears that there is, then maybe that's the way to go. But I just wanted to know if there was an alternative if we did have a delay until May 4th. And it doesn't sound like we have that option.
Commissioner, the way that we see it, there's going to be no change in service. The only thing that's going to change is the color of the trucks, and we're committed to that.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, yes, Commissioner.
When does your council meet again?
Thursday.
Okay, so you have a lot of footwork to do to present something to them by Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Can you order the containers with X amount for sure and an option for the additional amount that's in question, so you kind of like have a two-part purchase order with them, a firm order and then an option to add an incremental amount to it?
I think that's a good question. That's something that we can't answer right now. We'll have to check with our purchasing department to see if that could happen.
Mr. Stade?
Mr. Chairman, I was going to say, I feel, I totally agree with the last statement that Mr. Reingold made regarding, I don't think whatever decisions made regarding our end of things, I don't think it's going to change materially anything that's in your agreement.
Okay. Right.
It's primarily going to be on our end, I think. Okay. And could it result in us coming out of the interlocal agreement? It may, but I certainly, that's not what I would like to do, and I'm pretty sure my council would not want to do that. So I would say I really appreciate the fact that the Commission's going through a lot of trouble and I'm causing a lot of headaches here. I realize that and I apologize. But I truly feel like if we're just given a couple of days to be able to work together between Dylan, Chester, myself, both servicing companies, waste management and Republic Services, we'll figure it out, and I think we'll be okay.
Robbie, let me ask you this. Do you want a couple of days without us approving this today? Or would you want a couple of days just after we approve this?
Let me just, is the issue at this point just the number of carts we're going to order on May 1st?
See, I don't think he knows the answer to that because his board's not in front of him.
As I understood him, I might have got it wrong, the Shores is either going to go with waste management recycling or not go with waste management recycling. Is that in a nutshell?
In a sense, again, because I'm not an attorney, I think it's more of a legal thing.
Let me just put this out there and see if it would work. I mean, why don't we just make the motion to go ahead with this, giving staff the ability by April 30th to set the exact number of carts needed. And that way it gives until April 30th the Shores and our staff time to work out that. I mean, that's just if I understood it correctly.
That sounds fine to me.
Okay. So.
And the reason, and you know,
that's the second.
Okay, if you're good with that, that's my biggest concern is, you know, we don't want it to be lost that the residents of Indian River Shores are county residents too. And so that I want to make that, in fact, even if this had gone the wrong way, I was thinking about voting for it just so I could reconsider it in the event we've found some unforeseen consequence on behalf of the Shores. So,
my thought.
But, all right, so.
Just to make sure I'm clear, the whole situation, you all just signed a 3-year contract with Republic for recycling.
Recycling and solid waste.
Okay, but the solid waste doesn't affect it. So
correct.
So then the two options are, I think Commissioner Flory said, either somehow you need to break that contract with Republic and then you'll go into the recycling with waste management, or you'll honor your 3-year contract with Republic and not do waste management for 3 years and then roll in after that. Is that?
No matter what, I've either got to conduct an RFP myself or piggyback onto what the county's done mid-year 2017.
Right, okay. So, Commissioner Slaughter, your motion is to approve the contract, but by April 30th, you should know if they're in or out, which will affect how many carts you guys order.
That's correct.
Last question. Robbie, you good with that?
I am. Absolutely.
Are you guys good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Staff, are you good with that?
Staff has heartburn, both hands at the same time.
Yeah, they're both fidgeting there. Yeah.
In the interest of trying to be proactive, we reached out to the property appraiser to find out if there would be a dual system. In other words, if the Shores were to retain Treasure Coast refuse at the $1.78, which is part of the non-ad valorem, we right now are going to the $2.55. And what we're being told is that would be very timely and cost prohibitive, to do a dual use code. In other words, the property appraiser has one use code set up right now. So all the county residents are at that $2.55 on the residential. There is no mechanism right now, should Treasure Coast stay in Indian River Shores, to have the dual tiered system for the recycling, for which we collect the money from the residents and then we pay whomever. So right now we would collect the money and pay Waste Management come October 1st. But if for some reason there's that dual system, we would have to collect and then pay not only Treasure Coast for Indian River Shores at some new use code that cannot be put in without a lot of money. And I'm not sure time-wise. I just throw that out there as another hiccup as staff trying to be proactive.
I don't think any of us are going to try and do that because it would be very costly and the time doesn't, it can't work. So the time doesn't work for this.
So it's a serious issue, but it's not going to happen.
You're just trying to look at ways to make it.
Joe, but it's not going to happen.
No, there's no way. First of all, the way the notice is, we have to give the product. We don't meet the time frame legally, and they said it'd be very hard for them to do. So I don't think it's an option.
Okay.
So Robbie's got some work to do, and with his counsel for Thursday, and you have to kind of roll the dice on till Thursday about the ordering mechanism.
Commissioner Zorton.
Yes. With there being 3 different size containers, do you guys make your best industry practices guess of how many to order of which size?
We do, Commissioner, yes.
And then you have a little surplus of one, so if somebody says, no, I really want the bigger one, and then, will you have a customer survey that goes out and says, I'd like to have X size bin, or how do you get that feedback from your customer side?
Mr. Burke, did you want to address
I was just going to say, we did an
that?
informal poll here at the chambers, but also at all the different municipalities up at Fellsmere and the City Hall and Vero Beach as well, to try to solicit some of the folks who would be interested as to what. So we have some rough customer counts we'd be happy to share with Waste Management, but certainly we're at least trying to, right now, say we'll go with a larger cart initially, but have the option to switch that out if you want to go to a smaller cart.
Okay.
So we'll be able to refine those numbers with Waste Management.
And also Indian River Shores did mention they may want to stay with the container, go single stream, but stay with the small containers because of their residents may not like the big garbage, and that was another option that we discussed. We'd keep an inventory of the old containers.
Well, they have a lot to discuss at Thursday's meeting. The new process has toters with wheels, and they have bins, and they also had wanted to have garage side pickup as well, as opposed to curbside, I believe.
Actually, back door.
Yeah, backdoor service. And with the advent of the wheels, imagine the invention of the wheel is actually having an impact today. It might change the whole composition of the discussion, but that's for the shores. Thank you, Robbie.
Okay. Any further discussions? I believe we have a motion on the floor, which is basically. Yeah, hold on one second, Bob. Come on up. Come on. We have a motion on the floor for that we have the.
Basically go with staff recommendation.
Staff recommendation
giving the staff the authorization by
the end of the month,
30th,
right,
to actually set the number of carts that needed to be ordered for the contract.
Yes, and that gives time for the shores to do what they need to and to be a part of or not the process.
And I remember seeing a head nod up and down from the folks from Waste Management on that.
I think everybody pretty much knows that. Got a motion from Commissioner Solari and a second from Commissioner Flesher, and now we have some comment from Mr. Bob Johnson. Mr. Johnson, welcome. Coral One Subdivision.
How do you know his address exactly?
The question is on the CPI. There are different CPI indexes, out there. Which index is the contract going to?
We usually do the Southeast
Was
region
it spelled?
CP.
Is the contract spell out what CPI index?
If you look at Exhibit 4, it will talk about the CPI, not only for the Southeast index, but also for the fuel rate as well. There's an adjustment based into that. So if you look at page 224 of your agenda backup, it will determine how that CPI is calculated. Look at it.
Does that answer your question, Bob?
So what's CPI index?
It's the Southern Urban Region CPI. That's what we usually use. The CPI shall be the South Urban Region. And we've always used that in about everything we've done, including labor contracts.
Because there are different CPI indexes.
Oh, yes,
and
we're aware of that.
What the situation is. The other question, I wasn't able to be at the all-day session, so I...
Bob, you missed one. You should have been there.
Please apologize on me. I, for one, live in the county, and I'm not unsatisfied. I'm satisfied with Republic service, and for me, I hate to see Republic lose their jobs because of the new contract, but since it's an RFP and that's how it is, that's life. The other thing I have, though, I noticed that there's a radio on these carts. Could you explain the use of the radio and how it's going to function and so forth?
Yeah, it's a RFID, radio frequency identification, so it's a passive chip that resides, that's actually manufactured into the cart itself, and there is a reader on the garbage or recycling truck. So it does not take into account the tonnages or what's inside each of the units. It just basically keeps track of where that bin is located. If you recall, I have Treasure Coast right now. There's a sticker program, so every 3 months I get a new sticker. Well, right now we're doing away with the sticker to save on some of the costs. So those bins are put out, there's a radio frequency identification number for each and every bin, whether or not it's the garbage or recycling. And included in that, there'll be numbers to at least give to SWID so that there's a set-out rate. So if you have 10 people in a neighborhood and only 3 recycle bins are out, we'll know that there's only 3 recycle bins so that we can use our education coordinator to look at those metrics so that we can focus our efforts to get more people knowing about recycling to put their bins out. So that's what the RFID is.
So when I roll in my garbage can at the end of the day, this radio is monitoring my activities, whether which location it's at in the garage, or do I have the option to not have a radio transmitter on my garbage?
First of all, it's just a passive device. There's no actual power source to the chip that's embedded inside the plastic. So there's no active, radio frequency that's being emitted. It's just a unique identifier in each and every cart that when the garbage truck pulls up, it pulls that information from that chip that has that information. So there's no radio emissions in your garage or outside your garage. It is a passive
So
device.
there's a swipe or something that the truck has,
The truck
and
has a special-
he swipes the...
Will that be used for billing, too?
For billing purposes?
Yeah.
I mean, think of it as a barcode, like on all the merchandise that you buy. Just think of it as a barcode. You know, you go to the grocery store, everything's got a barcode today.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing as the license, the back of the license. I'm just trying to figure out, there's a black strip on the back of your license plate that has all sorts of information on it. I just...
Oh, no, I don't think we're not even extrapolating that.
So this is a barcode?
It's a barcode just in case somebody steals it. We might be able to tell you whose house it goes back to.
And also how often the resident participated and brought their bin to the curb. They say it wasn't picked up, say, well, it wasn't there to be picked up on the day. You'll have a history of service.
But it's not used for anything else other than, it's not used for billing is what you're saying, or, okay. So how's the billing going to work?
Well, the billing, again, is on a voluntary basis, so if you would like to have billing, you can sign up October and get a 10% discount thanks to Waste Management. But certainly it's on a voluntary basis where you can contact a local Waste Management office and sign up for those services, pay for the quarterly, and then they'll deliver a cart depending on which size cart that you would like to have.
So between now and 1 October, I call Waste Management to activate the service. There's not an automatic transition in the service or something like that. We have to, as a resident, we have to subscribe. We have to notify Waste Management on our own initiative.
Again, part of the process, if the board signs it today, is we have a 30-day process to do the transition. So we have milestones, we have flyers, we have information that's going to be sent out to all the existing residents, alerting them of the change, alerting them of their options and what they need to do in order to subscribe to the new services. That would start on October 1st.
Yeah, I don't want to be sitting out there and all of a sudden expecting my garbage to be picked up and find out that I was supposed to call them and initiate it. I hope that there's a hotline, at least for the first transition, for problems that people have. Senior citizens that don't call and activate, they don't, something like that. A 6-month hotline that call right through to the guy that can take some action on some trash pickup or whatever. Thank you very much.
Bob, just remember, it's no different than it is today. I mean, I'm under subscription. So you could call today and order subscription, and that service will start. And then just October 1st, you'll get a different container, and the rate will go down.
I'm thinking of the folks in nursing homes and stuff like this that they're sitting out there. They're happy now with
A nursing home's considered commercial.
Well, okay.
A nursing home, they wouldn't have their own bins. They would go into.
Thank you. But they're elderly.
Thank you, Bob. Any further discussion? Yes, sir. Welcome, Mr. Zurich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for this chance to speak. Stephen Zurich, 945 37th Avenue, Vero Beach. Officially Vero Beach, though I do not live within the city limits. I just have a couple of questions regarding these new bins. First of all, if I understand right, instead of the 2 blue bins, everything's going to be put into one-wheel bin now. Paper, plastics 1 through 7, glass, etc.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One other question. Okay, now I understand the new plan that's coming up regarding recycling and solid waste. How about yard waste, such as brush, tree limbs, etc.? What's going to be done for that?
Yes. Go ahead, Benny. Go ahead and say it into the microphone just in case.
No change. If you subscribe, pickup it will be once a week, depending on which area of the county you live in will determine which day it's picked up.
And that could be whatever container you could forage to use that.
There's specific size or bundles that you can put the material on the curbside, and they will be picked up once a week.
It won't go in one of our designated containers, though.
We're not providing a container. No. One of the options is if you have a garbage can now that will no longer be used, but because you're getting a new garbage can, you could use that old can to put some of that vegetative material in.
It's just like we do today. Won't change.
Thank you. Just one more comment.
Sure.
I do hope that between the Waste Management or whoever will be contracted here or within the municipalities and the commission or responsible governments, there will be a coordinated communication, I hope, between them and members of the public to know what's coming down, what's going to happen, and what they should do about it. And I hope it will be an open one between all bodies concerned rather than one hand not knowing what the other is doing.
Clearly, we're trying to avoid that as much as possible, as well as the educational component of the recycling also, Mr. Zurich. And as I understand it from our last meeting, in fact, on the inside lid of the recycling container, it will actually be almost a visual aid of what you can put in there and what you should be putting in that recycling container to help out a little bit with that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time. Yes, sir. Anybody else wish to speak on the motion to approve staff recommendation with the caveat of till April 30th to determine the number of bins which to accommodate the residents of Indian River Shores in the direction they so choose? If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And Robbie, if y'all have any issues or anything, please feel free to give us a call. Give me a call. Thank you. Very much. Yes, sir. Commissioners, if I'm not mistaken, if there's no further business to be transacted at this time, I now declare this meeting adjourned.